Chapter 148. In the beginning, during the process of breaking through the bottleneck, Lu Kuan used normal primordial fire to refine his body and did not purify his magic power. But when Lu Kuan injected wood magic power into his muscles with fire magic power, his muscles' magic power was like a quiet flame, and the wood magic power was like fuel. When the two met, they collided. Just when Lu Kuan took the crimson fire royal jelly and raised the power of his consciousness to the beginner level of foundation establishment, the wood magic power in his body was boiling. At the same time, the exuberant white primordial fire not only calcined his muscles, but also calcined the magic power in the depths of his muscles. During this process, the purity of his muscles' magic power rapidly increased. But Lu Kuan knew that this rapid purification was very dangerous. He had to forcibly liquefy it in time. Therefore, Lu Kuan very decisively took the crimson fire royal jelly at this time. Feeling such a powerful divine sense, his confidence was greatly boosted. Using the condensation secret technique of the ancient foundation establishment technique, his divine sense carried a strange wave and pressed down on the boiling mana in his muscles. But after a while, he found that although these muscles' magic power began to liquefy, the transformation speed was slow, and the flesh's purity had reached the highest point. If it continued, it would be destroyed by the white primordial fire. I have to do it in one go. Lu Kuan made a decision. His face revealed a crazed expression, and he injected the remaining 50% of his wood magic power into his muscles' magic power. At this moment, the white primordial fire fiercely sprang up, burning outside his body. The fire magic power in his muscles became even more turbulent, as if it would explode at any time, and its purity was raised to the extreme. Now's the time. Lu Kuan seemed to be unable to feel the pain in his body. All of his power of consciousness poured out, covering his whole body. Taking advantage of the moment when the fire magic power was about to explode, he firmly compressed it back. At the same time, his external muscles were also calcined to the extreme by this instant explosion of primordial fire. Boom! Lu Kuan's mind flashed with a thunderclap. The 100% would attribute magic power that he had injected into his muscles was compressed together with the fire attribute magic power in his muscles. In the end, it formed a white liquid magic power in his muscles. Then, he felt an unknown change in his soul. Without much thought, he knew that he had reached the foundation establishment stage. This was an indescribable feeling in his soul, as if he had transformed from a pupa into a butterfly. At the same time, the power of his spiritual sense had also become more powerful because of this transformation. Previously, Lu Kuan's spiritual sense was already at the level of the early foundation establishment stage. Now, it was comparable to the middle foundation establishment stage. The mana in his muscles calmed down when it was liquefied, and the primordial fire also stopped burning. Lu Kuan was still standing there motionlessly. His spirit-controlling magical artifacts were not damaged by the white primordial fire, but his skin was already charred black. Xiao Jin stood to the side, his ears flashing with golden light, as if he was sensing something. Lu Kuan stood like this, recalling the process of the condensation. It was not until the second day that he opened his eyes. His body trembled slightly, and the silver-white spirit-controlling magical artifacts fell off, revealing his charred body. On this day, his spiritual root appeared. Immediately after, the surrounding spiritual energy began to gather towards Lu Kuan, rushing into his muscles. The spiritual energy that entered his muscles was actually the spiritual energy of the two attributes of fire and wood. Then, under the control of Lu Kuan's newly created condensation method, it was transformed into a pure white liquid magic power and stored in his muscles. With the infusion of the surrounding spiritual energy, Lu Kuan's aura became stronger and stronger, until his muscles were filled with white liquid magic power. At this time, Lu Kuan's magic power was about the same as an ordinary early foundation establishment cultivator. As Lu Kuan felt this brand new liquid magic power, Lu Kuan couldn't help but whisper, This foundation establishment magic power contains the two attributes of fire and wood. It can directly circulate the liquid magic power and use the primordial tree body tempering arts recovery technique. Although Lu Kuan's cultivation had broken through, the burst of magic power at the last moment had caused great damage to his body. It took him a full day to recover. In the end, his body shone with a white light, and the charred skin on the surface of his body fell off, revealing the white and tender skin inside. Gradually, Lu Kuan's entire body seemed to have shed a layer of skin, and his face also became younger. His body looked crystal clear, and there was a strong sense of oppression coming from his body. At this time, Lu Kuan opened his eyes, and a fierce aura erupted. It was much stronger than that of ordinary early foundation establishment cultivators. Xiao Jin, who had his eyes closed, felt this powerful pressure and was forced to take a few steps back. However, this little monkey was abnormally excited, as if he had advanced. Lu Kuan looked at his body after the foundation establishment and felt somewhat incredulous. The breakthrough of the body tempering art is actually so powerful. Although my magic power is only at the early foundation establishment stage, the aura it emits is much stronger than that of the early foundation establishment cultivator I killed. It's almost the same as Martial Uncle Goose. Then, Lu Kuan used the divine perception technique and adjusted his muscles and nerves. The aura of his body was completely restrained, and he looked like an ordinary person. Then, he looked at his arm. With a sizzling sound, a pure white flame appeared on Lu Kuan's arm, emitting a powerful wave. Lu Kuan carefully observed for a while and whispered, "That's right. Its power and form are about the same as a foundation establishment true fire. After the giant arm divine ability is activated, its power should be increased further." As the primordial fire burned, the skin under the primordial fire gradually became charred. However, Lu Kuan's magic power surged, and he used the recovery technique, and in the blink of an eye, it recovered to its original state. He did not release the primordial fire shield. This flame that was comparable to the foundation establishment true fire was actually unable to burn his skin for a while. Moreover, as long as he had his magic power to maintain the recovery technique, this foundation establishment true fire would not even be able to hurt him. This is the powerful physical body that the body tempering art should have. Without any defensive measures, just the physical body alone can resist the foundation establishment true fire. It seems that the physical body now is about the same as that of a second-level demon beast. Thinking of the primordial fire shield, Lu Kuan frowned and pondered for a while. His muscles contracted, and what followed was a red-green halo, not the red primordial fire shield. This new halo circulated on the surface of his body, and it seemed to be more lively than before. Next, Lu Kuan muttered and tested many different characteristics. Finally, he sat cross-legged in the cave and closed his eyes to think about the body tempering art for the early foundation establishment stage. At the side, Xiao Jin also sat cross-legged in front of Lu Kuan, with a somewhat conflicted expression on his monkey face. After another 4 days, Lu Kuan opened his eyes, revealing a horrified expression. How could this be? I clearly did not wear a spiritual controlling artifact. How could I circulate my magic power? The spirit root appeared 4 days ago. After circulating his magic power for a while, Lu Kuan muttered, "Could it be that every transformation of the physical body will improve the quality of the hidden spirit root?" The foundation establishment stage made the hidden spirit root appear once every 5 days to once every 4 days. The last time I transformed was when I mastered the Vajra mantra. It should be so. I can only verify it next time when I break through. Lu Kuan then relied on the spirit root to circulate the liquid magic power in his body, and did not stop for an entire day. After the spirit root disappeared, he put on the spiritual controlling artifact, and the power of the divine sense comparable to the middle foundation establishment stage poured into the artifact and continued to circulate his magic power. Not long after, Lu Kuan revealed a smile and muttered to himself, My previous conjecture was completely correct. After the magic power becomes liquid, it can finally circulate to the bones and temper them. And after 2 days of tempering, these bones can contain some liquid magic power. In that case, as long as I complete the transformation of my bones and completely fill them with liquid magic power, I can enter the middle foundation establishment stage. When I reach the middle foundation establishment stage, I will temper my bone marrow and blood, and when I reach the late foundation establishment stage, I will temper my internal organs. After I finish tempering my internal organs, I should enter the great circle of foundation establishment stage. But after that, how can I enter the core formation stage? Lu Kuan shook his head and laughed self-deprecatingly. I just entered the early foundation establishment stage, and I haven't even perfected the entire foundation establishment stage's techniques. Thinking about it now, I definitely have no clue. I'll think about it after my cultivation takes a step forward. A few days ago, Lu Kuan used his muscles to absorb spiritual energy and discovered that spiritual energy of various attributes could not be used to temper his bones, and the effect of tempering his muscles was also extremely low. This meant that in the future, he could only rely on liquid magic power to temper his bones in the early foundation establishment stage. Without a spirit-controlling immortal artifact, he could only temper his body once every 4 days, and his cultivation speed would be shockingly slow. Lu Kuan looked at the low-grade spirit stones installed on his spirit-controlling immortal artifact. After this breakthrough and his use just now, they had all dimmed. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian exchanged the spirit stones with a bitter smile on his face. It seems that my need for spirit stones is much greater than the average foundation establishment stage cultivator. After a few days of research on the foundation establishment stage's magic power tempering and his understanding of body tempering techniques, Lu Kuan created the early foundation establishment stage of the body tempering technique. Together with the liquid condensation technique, he combined a primordial fire body tempering technique and a primordial wood body tempering technique. The new body tempering technique is only of different attributes. Mine is of the wood and fire attribute, and I may create other attributes in the future. The primordial fire ability of the foundation establishment stage's body tempering technique is still there, but is turned into a white foundation establishment stage's magic power true fire. After fusing with the wood attribute's magic power, its explosive power seems to have improved further. The primordial fire shield has also changed into a dual-colored shield. As for its defensive power, I still need to test it carefully. However, it shouldn't be called the primordial fire shield, but the dual-colored light shield. As for the primordial explosion step, if I'm not wrong, I can add an incomparably powerful air movement technique. The space in the cave abode is too small, so it's not easy to use. In this case, the body manipulation flying technique can also be changed. After combing through the body tempering technique, Lu Kuan murmured, "The body tempering technique is finally somewhat complete. The Vajra art is the introductory technique, followed by the primordial fire and the primordial wood body tempering technique. After that, the foundation establishment stage's body tempering technique is considered the first step in body tempering and immortal cultivation." Then Lu Kuan called out to the dazed Xiao Jin and walked out. Chapter 149. In the evening, half of the orange sun hid behind the mountain peak in the distance. The red glow of the sun shone on the sunset pavilion on the 4th floor of the crafting peak. 2 people stood on the top floor of the pavilion, facing the afterglow of the setting sun. One of them had a round face and a silver beard. There were a few wrinkles on his face. He was a kind-looking old man in his 50s. He was looking at the orange setting sun in the distance. His whole body emitted a faint wave of powerful spiritual energy. It was Zhu Siming, who had just reached the core formation stage. The other person was wearing a white robe. He was elegant and handsome. He held a feather fan in his hand. He stood quietly behind the old man. His expression was respectful and respectful. It was Qin Yushu, the master of the crafting peak. Zhu Siming looked at the setting sun and said, "Martial nephew Qin, you really don't want to learn my spiritual engraving technique?" Qin Yushu smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said, "Martial Uncle Zhu, you know that I have a headache dealing with all the affairs of the crafting peak. I don't have the time to learn such powerful crafting techniques." Zhu Siming looked back at the peak in the middle of the Yang clan and said, "Your master was still the master of the crafting peak. Not only did he manage these affairs well, but he also used the time to use the spiritual engraving technique. I also used the remaining time to comprehend the art of artifact forging, and in a short period of time, I was able to cultivate the dermic powers of the great circle of foundation establishment." Qin Yushu coughed and said, "That, Martial Uncle Zhu, my master is very talented. How can I compare to him?" Zhu Siming shook his head and said, "Your master is very powerful, but he has a hidden spiritual root. His real talent for cultivation is actually slightly worse than yours. You used an ancient method to reach foundation establishment. Even in the Shangqing sect of the Middle Continent, you are one of the best." Qin Yushu smiled slightly. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Zhu Siming continue. "The most important reason why your master has so many achievements is that he uses his time wisely. He will arrange everything that does not require the use of dermic powers until the day his spirit root disappears. For the rest of the time, even if he is discussing the art of refining with us or dealing with urgent matters in the crafting peak, he will use a small portion of his divine sense to cultivate. That's why he was able to recultivate to the great circle of foundation establishment. Furthermore, after nearly 100 years of multitasking, his consciousness and mana have been tempered to an extremely pure state. That's why he's so powerful. In this regard, you must learn from your master. With your latent talent and solid foundation, you will have a chance of reaching core formation within 100 years. Qin Yushu revealed a somewhat awkward smile. He can't multitask. Furthermore, although his personality seems gentle and quiet, he is actually a wanton and unrestrained person. How can he be as calm as Niao Wufeng? Being able to handle affairs is already his limit. Qin Yushu saw that this Uncle Master was about to lecture him and changed the topic. "Oh right, Uncle Master Zhu, there hasn't been an abode competition in the past. It's always been decided by the core formation stage Uncle Masters. Why are you doing this year?" Zhu Siming saw that he was changing the topic and sighed. He still answered, "This is the result of my discussion with my 3 senior brothers. In the past, the core formation stage cultivators were the ones to assess the abode competition. If we do this, it's very likely that we will miss out on the disciples who are good at fighting. Now, it just so happens that there are a few missions that require the strong foundation establishment stage disciples to complete. Every peak needs to send out 3 people. Therefore, the real purpose of this abode competition is to find foundation establishment stage disciples with strong fighting abilities and let them complete the missions given by the school. This mission is of great importance. It's not good to let too many people know about it. We also don't know the strength of each foundation establishment stage disciple, so we can only use this method to select the strongest disciples. The 4th floor is quite spacious. Even with the addition of 3 people, there are only 5 people in total." Qin Yushu heard this, and his expression changed slightly. He said, "Could it be that the mission Uncle Master is talking about is related to Shangqing sect?" Zhu Siming nodded and said, "Only the peak masters and core formation stage cultivators in the school know about this. However, we can't hide it for long. The battle will begin very soon." Thinking about the enemies they were about to fight, Qin Yushu revealed a bit of worry. He said, "Uncle Master Zhu, in this battle, will all the core formation stage cultivators participate? Won't it be dangerous to face a powerful school like Shangqing sect?" Zhu Siming's expression was slightly serious. He said, "We should be taking turns to guard the school, but you don't have to worry. Although our Yang clan has the least number of core formation stage cultivators, they're all very strong. They won't be killed that easily. Moreover, your master is hiding in the dark to provide support, so the danger won't be great. After all, after senior martial brother Niao advanced to the core formation stage, his wind shadow escape technique became even more unpredictable." After Qin Yushu heard this, his expression relaxed. At this moment, a sound-transmitting talisman flew over. Qin Yushu caught it in his hand and opened it. Reporting to Uncle Master Qin, Uncle Master Lu Kuan has just advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage and is here to pay his respects. When Zhu Siming and Qin Yushu heard the words in the sound-transmitting talisman, their reactions were different. Qin Yushu revealed a look of disbelief. He said, Lu Shidi has actually advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage. Could it be that he used his self-created cultivation method to successfully enter the Foundation Establishment stage? On the other hand, Zhu Siming revealed a somewhat gratified expression. He said, Good boy, he actually succeeded. Seeing Qin Yushu's expression, Zhu Siming said, Before I advanced to the core formation stage, Lu Shiji and I had a deep conversation. I discovered that his willpower is extremely firm. He knows that the path ahead is difficult, but he isn't afraid at all. He really isn't simple. Qin Yushu sent out a sound-transmitting talisman and said in a low voice that Lu Shidi used the ancient Foundation Establishment technique as a reference. I wonder how strong he is now after advancing. Zhu Siming's expression changed. With a somewhat strange expression, he said, Lu Shiji is coming up. Lu Kuan, dressed in a black robe, walked up. His entire body didn't emit the slightest bit of fluctuation. When he saw Zhu Siming at the side, he was slightly stunned. He said, So Martial Uncle Zhu is also here. Martial Nephew congratulates Martial Uncle for advancing to the Jindan stage. Your strength has greatly improved. Then he said to Qin Yushu, Senior Martial Brother Qin, long time no see. I still have to thank Senior Martial Brother for your help in refining all of the spirit-controlling celestial instruments. Qin Yushu carefully observed Lu Kuan. He said somewhat dejectedly, Junior Martial Brother, you don't have to be so polite. However, your cultivation method of concealing your transcendence energy is really amazing. I can't sense it at all. Hearing this, Lu Kuan smiled. In order to restrain the momentum of his breakthrough, he didn't activate the transcendence energy in his body. After Qin Yushu finished speaking, he released his divine sense. Together with the spirit-controlling celestial instruments, he activated some liquid transcendence energy fluctuations. Looking at Lu Kuan, who was emitting the transcendence energy fluctuations of the early Foundation Establishment stage, Qin Yushu sighed and said, You really succeeded in establishing your foundation. Junior Martial Brother, you're here to register, right? Lu Kuan nodded and said, Yes, Senior Martial Brother. After registering, can I live on the third floor? The spiritual energy there is much more abundant than the second floor. It's more conducive to cultivation. Qin Yushu revealed a somewhat strange expression and said, Yes. However, since Junior Martial Brother has advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage, then you must participate in the following cave-dwelling competition. Lu Kuan frowned and said, Cave-dwelling competition. Following that, Qin Yushu explained the reason for the Immortals Cave contest to him, and also informed Lu Kuan that all Foundation Establishment stage disciples from the Weapon Refining Peak had to participate, and the top 3 winners would be able to stay on the 4th floor. After Lu Kuan heard this, his eyes lit up. He was now on the 4th floor. Of course, he knew how dense the spiritual energy here was. Here, the cave dwelling could accelerate the speed of bone tempering and reach the middle Foundation Establishment stage a day earlier. At this time, Zhu Siming saw Lu Kuan's somewhat moved expression and suddenly said, There's also one more thing. The winner of this competition will be able to pass on my divine sense engraving technique. After Lu Kuan heard this, his face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. On the way here, he had been thinking about the problem of reforging his magic tool. When immortal cultivators reached the Foundation Establishment stage, ordinary supreme-grade magic tools could no longer exert the maximum power of liquid Dharma power. They had to be smelted again, engraved with a psychic array, and upgraded to a first-level psychic Dharma tool. Lu Kuan did not learn such a psychic array engraving technique in the weapon refining stage. This kind of weapon refining technique could only be exchanged in the sect's Hidden Scriptures Pavilion, and the contribution points required were as high as 10,000 points. Most of the Foundation establishment stage cultivators in the sect found weapon refining peak disciples who knew psychic arrays to refine their magic tools. When Lu Kuan heard Uncle Master Zhu's words, he secretly made up his mind to strive for first place in this competition. After all, Uncle Master Zhu's divine sense engraving technique had been improved by him and was famous in the entire Wei Kingdom immortal cultivation world. Lu Kuan himself had guessed the method of body tempering and foundation establishment through the weapon refining technique. In order to break through in the future, he had to learn more advanced weapon refining techniques. Qin Yushu was also a little surprised when he heard this, but it did not matter if he did not want to learn. He then said to Lu Kuan, "Junior brother, give me the token. I will arrange a cave abode for you first. The competition will only begin in a month, and we have to wait for a few disciples to return to the sect." Lu Kuan took out the Yang clan token. After Qin Yushu took it, he cast a spell into it. Then, the number 34 appeared on the back of the token under the 3 words, Weapon Refining Peak. Qin Yushu took out another formation plate and handed it to Lu Kuan. He said, "Lu Shidi, you are the 34th Foundation Establishment Disciple of our peak. This formation plate is the restriction formation plate for Cave Abode 34 on the 3rd floor." Lu Kuan cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Senior Brother Qin. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first." Seeing the two of them nod, Lu Kuan walked out. Seeing Lu Kuan leave, Qin Yushu asked, "Uncle Master Zhu, why did you give this divine sense engraving technique as a reward?" Zhu, Siming, smiled and said, "When Lu Shiji approached the Sunset Pavilion, I sensed it. However, my current divine sense, which is stronger than the average mid-core formation stage, was unable to detect the Dharma power and divine sense fluctuations hidden in his body. He was just like an ordinary person. However, when he activated his Dharma power, I sensed the power of his divine sense. It was very strong, almost as strong as yours. It is suitable for him to learn my divine sense engraving technique." Qin Yushu said, "Junior apprentice brother Lu has used the ancient foundation establishment technique as a reference. It's understandable for him to have such a divine sense. Could it be that senior apprentice Uncle Zhu wants to impart this to junior apprentice brother Lu?" Chapter 150. On the 3rd level of Weapon Refinement Peak, there was a pavilion with red pillars and yellow tiles by the side of a cliff. It was built close to the cliff, and the clouds between the mountain peaks swirled around it, making it look beautiful and ethereal. In this pavilion, 4 cultivators in red robes could be vaguely seen chatting with each other. "Fatty Zhu, why do you think the Uncle Masters are holding a cave abode competition?" The person who spoke was a thin man with a sallow face. He leaned against a red pillar and frowned in confusion. The disciple who was called Fatty Zhu was as fat as his name suggested. His small eyes were slightly narrowed as he lay on a bench in the pavilion. Half of his body was hanging off the bench. After hearing this, Fatty Zhu said lazily, "It's obvious that whoever has the strongest fist can stay on the 4th level. Many senior brothers have a chance. According to the previous method, how many people can catch the eye of the Uncle Masters?" Another tall man sat beside Fatty Zhu. When he heard this, he nodded and said, "That's right. That's why we're a little dissatisfied with the Uncle Masters letting Qin Yushu stay on the 4th level. His weapon refinement skills might not be bad, but compared to Senior Brother Yi, he's definitely inferior. Why can he enter the 4th level, but Senior Brother Yi can't?" The thin man with a sallow face who spoke first said, "That's right. Senior Brother Ye's weapon refinement skills are extraordinary. His level of spiritual array carving is second only to Uncle Master Zhu. Furthermore, Senior Brother Yi has a late-stage foundation establishment cultivation." At this moment, the last disciple spoke. He had been sitting cross-legged at the side with his eyes closed and his expression cold. He shook his head and said, "You're underestimating Junior Brother Qin. Junior Brother Chin has followed Uncle Master Nya for so many years. How can his weapon refinement skills be bad? It's just that he rarely helps other disciples refine Dharma artifacts. Furthermore, he used an ancient method to build his foundation. Ignoring how strong he is, just the fact that his chances of forming his core are higher than ours is enough to make the Uncle Masters look at him in a different light. The tall man said, "It's a pity that Qin Yushu won't be participating in the competition this time. Otherwise, many senior brothers in the middle stage of the foundation building realm would definitely challenge him and fight him." Fatty Zhu suddenly sat up and said excitedly, "Junior Brother Qin and Brother Gu won't be participating in the competition. Who do you think will be in the top 3? Of the foundation establishment cultivators of our weapon refinement peak, I can tell how many of them are strong or weak in terms of weapon refinement skills. However, it's hard to say in terms of strength. After all, they rarely fight." The cold-faced man said, "Needless to say, the strongest one must be Senior Brother Sunday. He is Rellingan's best talent, and his cultivation has reached the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. His combat ability is not much worse than that of the late stage of the foundation establishment realm." Fatty Zhu nodded and said, "I also think it's Senior Brother Sunday. Lightning attribute spells are incomparably powerful, and most magic artifacts are conductive. Unless it's a defensive magic artifact made of special materials or a powerful magic shield, one can only dodge." The yellow-skinned man pondered for a moment and said, "I think it's Senior Brother Yi. Senior Brother Yi entered the foundation establishment realm earlier than us. With his weapon refinement skills, he must have refined many powerful magic artifacts over the years. It's even possible that he can refine pseudo-magic artifacts. Coupled with his powerful magic power at the late stage, it'll be easy for him to take first place." Fatty Zhu shook his head wildly and said, "How is that possible? Pseudo-magic artifacts also require heavenly treasures. Those are items that can only be found by chance. Moreover, pseudo-magic artifacts have extremely high requirements for spiritual sense. Senior Brother, you may not necessarily meet the requirements." At this moment, the cold-faced man suddenly said, "A junior brother is coming this way. His face is somewhat unfamiliar. Could he be a newly advanced disciple?" When the other 3 heard this, they all spread out their spiritual sense. Sure enough, they discovered a black-clothed, burly man walking towards them from afar. Judging from his magic power fluctuations, he was at the early foundation establishment realm. The person who came was Lu Kuan. After he obtained the restriction formation plate for the new abode, he walked towards the 3rd floor. Lu Kuan used to walk through the mountain's passageways and had never truly entered this floor. After entering today, he discovered that this place was extremely vast. Every abode was separated by nearly a mile and was divided into upper, middle, and lower floors. He discovered that the abodes here didn't display a serial number. Even if he used his spiritual sense to investigate, he couldn't discover the differences between each abode. He didn't know any other foundation establishment realm disciples and didn't want to disturb the owner of an unfamiliar abode. After Lu Kuan walked half a circle, he noticed that there was a small pavilion in the distance. There were 4 disciples inside. He was overjoyed. He slightly stirred up some Fa Li and walked in that direction. Lu Kuan saw that the disciples in the pavilion were all looking at him. He cupped his hands and said, "Junior apprentice Brother Lu Kuan just advanced to foundation establishment. Greetings, senior apprentice brothers." Fatty Zhu said with a smile, "So it's Lu Shitty who just advanced to foundation establishment. Junior apprentice brother, are you unable to find your abode?" Lu Kuan's face was full of astonishment. He looked at Fatty Zhu and said, "Senior apprentice brother, how did you know? You can just call me Fatty Zhu. When I first advanced to foundation establishment, I was the same as you. I didn't know that after foundation establishment, you can fly on artifacts within the sect. As long as you fly to a high place and activate the formation plate in your hand, you will naturally find your abode." Lu Kuan slapped his head. He was so used to walking within the sect that he really forgot that he could fly on artifacts. He cupped his hands towards the foundation establishment realm disciples and said, Many thanks for Senior Apprentice Brother Zhu's guidance. Junior Apprentice Brother will first find an abode. I won't disturb you guys any further. Following that, he took out the Azure Boat Dharma artifact and flew into the air on it, searching for an abode according to Fatty Zhu's method. After seeing Lu Kuan leave, the cold-faced man revealed a puzzled expression as he looked at Lu Kuan's departing figure. Seeing this, the sallow and emaciated man asked, Senior Apprentice Brother Zheng, what's wrong? The cold-faced man muttered, I don't know if it's my imagination, but this Lu Shitty seems to have an extremely powerful spiritual sense. Hearing this, the sallow and emaciated man snorted disdainfully. How is that possible? He just advanced to Foundation establishment. How powerful can his spiritual sense be? You must have sensed wrongly. Another tall man also said, Senior Apprentice Brother must have sensed wrongly. I've already used my spiritual sense to investigate. This Lu Shitty's spiritual sense isn't that powerful. Instead, it's somewhat weak. If it wasn't for his Dharma power being at Foundation establishment, I wouldn't have thought that he was a Foundation establishment realm disciple. Perhaps his aptitude isn't high, and he barely succeeded in Foundation establishment. The cold-faced man frowned and said, Could it be that I really sensed wrongly? Fatty Zhu smiled and said, That's right. I quite like this Lu Shitty. This way, I won't be at the bottom of the competition, haha. Lu Kuan flew in the air on his artifact, holding a Dharma disc restriction that emitted a white light. Looking down, he saw that the restriction array above an abode emitted a white light, revealing the two words 34. So that's how it is. No wonder I have to fly in the sky to see it. Lu Kuan muttered as he flew down and entered the Immortal's Cave that was prepared for Foundation establishment stage disciples. Upon entering, he discovered that the abode here was much larger. There was a refining room and a simple furnace placed inside. Although Foundation establishment realm cultivators could use Dharma power and true fire to calcine materials, it was still much more convenient to have a furnace. In addition to this refining room, there was also a herb garden, a pill refining room, a cultivation room, and so on. The basic items placed inside were all rare and exquisite goods in the secular world. It seems that the Yang clan places great importance on Foundation establishment realm disciples. However, it's still much worse than the fourth floor. In addition to the abode, the fourth floor also has a separate refining room. The difference in spiritual chi between the two places is also quite large. If I cultivate in seclusion for a long time, the cultivation speed of the fourth floor will be increased by at least 20%. Lu Kuan muttered to himself, then walked to the front hall of the abode and released Xiao Jin. Looking at the little monkey's distressed appearance, he said, Xiao Jin, are you thinking of a way to become a level 2 demonic beast? Xiao Jin nodded and cried a few times with a mournful monkey face. Lu Kuan smiled and said, You said that you learned the theurgy, but you can't use it. You can't repair your body like me? Xiao Jin nodded with a bleak expression. Then do you know my primordial wood body tempering art? Xiao Jin nodded, then shook its head and cried a few times. You mean you know it, but you can't store wood attribute Dharma power in your body. You can't repair it. Lu Kuan smiled and said, Xiao Jin, aren't you very smart? Can't you think of me as the source of your wood attribute Dharma power? Lu Kuan deliberately emphasized the word me. When the little monkey heard Lu Kuan's words, its eyes lit up and it ran around happily. Lu Kuan was very happy to see Xiao Jin so excited. He said, Xiao Jin, I can't help you break through during this period. I have to prepare for the competition later. When the competition is over, I will help you break through. Xiao Jin nodded obediently and ran to the side to cultivate alone. Lu Kuan walked into the cultivation room and sat on the 100-year frost jade bed, his mind immersed. According to the man I fought before, an ordinary early-stage Foundation establishment stage cultivator is definitely not my match. Right now, the strength of my physical body is probably completely different from before. It's even comparable to ordinary refining materials. Its defense is strong, and there's no need to talk about strength. When I was at the Great Circle of Chi Refinement, the maximum strength of my arms was more than 10,000 kilograms. Now that I've successfully reached the foundation establishment stage, I have nearly 30,000 kilograms of strength. Combined with my physical Dharma power and the unparalleled staff, I can easily break through early-stage foundation establishment cultivator's Dharma power barrier, even if I don't use the dual staff fusion. After the dual staff fusion, I can probably defeat mid-stage foundation establishment cultivators with a sneak attack. Lu Kuan recalled the battle with the foundation establishment rogue cultivator and couldn't help but frown. I have to hide my attack until the end. Only then can I win with a surprise attack. Otherwise, if the opponent flies into the air, my advantage will be gone. I can only control magic items like ordinary cultivators and use spells to attack the opponent. His eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "That's right, I can use spells. Rellingan's talent is extremely strong. I think I can use some mid-level spells." Then he quickly opened his storage bag and took out a jade scroll. He placed it on his forehead and closed his eyes to read it. This jade scroll was found in the storage bag of the Foundation Establishment Rogue Cultivator. It was full of mid-level spells. Now that he has reached the Foundation Establishment stage and has the talent of mutated spiritual roots, it shouldn't be difficult to learn them. The only pity was that he didn't have enough contribution points to exchange for Thunder Attribute spells. Chapter 151. A month later, on the 4th floor of the weapon refining peak, there was a large open space in front of the Sunset Pavilion. There were 4 giant formations spread out on top of each formation. Each formation covered about 10 feet in length and width. There were 4 numbers flashing above each formation. Outside each formation, there were 8 disciples standing in the inner circle. Looking at their spiritual power, they were all at the early stage of foundation establishment. Outside the circle, there were many disciples looking on with excitement. This time, the competition on the weapon refining peak attracted all the chi condensation disciples on the peak. Among them, the disciples standing outside the first and second formations were the most. Chatter could be heard from them. A chi condensation stage disciple dressed in white pointed at a handsome man with an arrogant face standing outside the second formation and said, "That's Master's Uncle Sunday. I heard that he's the hot favorite in this competition. His thunder spiritual root is exceptionally strong." A disciple in red shook his head and said, "Martial Uncle Sun is only at the middle stage of foundation establishment. You don't know that Martial Uncle Yi is at the late stage of foundation establishment." When the disciple in white heard this, he was shocked and asked, "Which one is Martial Uncle Yi? I have heard that he is very skilled in the art of weapon refining. I didn't expect Martial Uncle Yi to be at the late stage of foundation establishment. It is a pity that I have never been able to accept the task of assisting Martial Uncle Yi." The disciple in red said proudly, "Hee, I once helped Martial Uncle Yi. It allowed my weapon refining skills to improve rapidly. There, that is Martial Uncle Yi." As he spoke, the disciple pointed at a man in black outside the first formation. This man had short hair, deep eyes, thick black eyebrows, and a resolute face. He was a middle-aged man with a steady demeanor. With his late foundation establishment stage divine sense, he could naturally hear the voices of the surrounding disciples. However, he didn't care. Instead, he looked at the elders in the Sunset Pavilion with a burning gaze. The disciple in red continued. This time, Martial Uncle Yi came to the competition with the determination to win. You have to know that if you get first place, you will be able to learn Martial Uncle Zhu's unique divine sense carving technique. The white-clothed disciple nodded. When he saw Martial Uncle Ye's gaze, he also looked towards the setting sun pavilion. He said, "Why are there 4 core formation grandmasters at the setting sun pavilion? Who is the last grandmaster wearing a yellow robe?" The disciple in red said, "If you didn't mention it, I wouldn't have seen him. Core formation grandmasters, many I've heard of, but never seen them. But he must be a core formation grandmaster from another peak. We have a total of 4 stages. Although they are protected by formations, to prevent injuries and deaths, they all need a core grandmaster to host them. Senior brother, you're really knowledgeable. Junior brother admires you greatly." "Haha, you flatter me." Junior brother and I are fated to meet. Why don't we go on a mission together next time? That's what I was thinking. Before the competition began, a small gray monkey suddenly appeared near the sunset pavilion. Yellow flames would occasionally appear under its feet. Every time the flames flickered, the figure would quickly dash forward at an extremely fast speed. Behind the little gray monkey was a gray kitten. It was chasing after the monkey with its tail shaking. It was very excited. After chasing for a few rounds, the gray kitten was the better one. It accurately calculated the route of the little monkey's flash and pressed down on the monkey's tail. Then, the kitten excitedly let out a howl and turned around to run away. At this time, it was the little monkey chasing the terrifyingly fast kitten. Just as the kitten let out a howl, a huge silver-spotted leopard about 5 feet long lazily raised its head. It looked in the direction of the kitten and then lazily lowered its head. This leopard emitted an extremely powerful aura. It was comparable to the early core formation stage. Beside the silver-spotted cheetah stood an old man in a yellow robe. He had a square head and big ears. His eyes were long and slender. From time to time, they would shine. He was a little fat. Looking at the expression of the cheetah beside him, he touched his belly and said to it, "I say, silver-spotted, ever since you advanced to the 5th level, you have become lazier and lazier. You should learn more from Little Gray. Otherwise, you won't be able to run anymore." The leopard heard the old man's words. Its tail slightly raised and its ears shook twice. It ignored him. "Haha, old ghost Sue, Silver Spot won't become like you. Look at yourself. Your big belly can't even be covered by your robe." The one who spoke was a red-robed old man. He was the core formation stage martial Uncle Zhang Xingyu, who secretly brought Niao Wufeng out to form his core. "Old Ghost Zhang, I came from the Morning Sun Peak to help you. Are you here to make fun of me?" It turned out that the yellow-robed old man was the core formation stage cultivator of the Morning Sun Peak, the famous silver leopard master Su Tianchuan. Next to him was his core formation stage spiritual beast, the silver-spotted leopard. Zhang Xingyu laughed. "You're not being kind. You obviously want the 100-year-old Ganoderma spirit wine in my cave." Su Tianchuan said matter-of-factly, "Junior martial brother Zhu has successfully formed his core. Naturally, we have to celebrate. Don't you think so, Junior martial brother Zhu?" Zhu Siming had an awkward expression. These two senior martial brothers were both in the middle stage of the core formation stage. Moreover, they had been in the core formation stage for many years. He didn't know how to respond. Fortunately, at this moment, his core formation stage senior martial brother Linghu came to the rescue. He heard the withered old man say, "Senior martial brothers, junior martial brother Zhu, it's about time. Let's go and host the ceremony." The few of them nodded and flew to their respective spell formations. Lu Kuan was currently standing outside the 4th spell formation. He looked at Xiao Jin and the gray kitten beside the sunset pavilion. He felt rather helpless. When he had just reached the 4th floor, the gray kitten had quickly jumped to his side and howled at him, making him confused for a while. However, Xiao Jin in the spirit beast pouch had shaken a bit, and he finally understood what was going on. He couldn't stand the little demonic beast's howls and had no choice but to let Xiao Jin out. However, when he saw Xiao Jin running around happily without the nervousness it had before breaking through, Lu Kuan couldn't help but reveal a trace of smile. Not long after, he saw a withered old man wearing a black robe fly to the top of his 4th spell formation. A voice filled with powerful magic power came from the sky. "Listen carefully. I will only repeat the rules once. I will randomly draw your command medallion numbers. Both sides, once the spell formation closes, you may begin the competition. Until one side concedes defeat or one side loses the ability to fight, the other person wins. 8 people, 2 on 1 battle. The winner will enter the 2nd round of the competition. The disciples who in the 3rd round will enter the top 4 competition on the 2nd day." The withered old man looked indifferently at the few foundation establishment disciples below. He randomly took out 2 command medallions from his storage pouch and said, "Number 30 and number 28, come up and compete." After he called out the numbers, he opened a gap in the spell formation. Following that, two early Foundation Establishment cultivators entered the spell formation. The old man was at the highest point inside the spell formation. Seeing this, a spell flag appeared in his hand. With a flash of light, the spell formation closed. After these two disciples entered the spell formation, they exchanged a few pleasantries with each other. After the spell formation closed, they began to fight. When Lu Kuan arrived, he had already observed all the disciples participating in the competition. He found that most of them were cultivators in the early stage of Foundation Establishment. There were 8 in the middle stage of Foundation Establishment and only 1 in the late stage of Foundation Establishment. Now that the two people in the ring were of equal cultivation, the battle of magical powers was a normal way for cultivators to fight. While maintaining their magical power shields, they each summoned a top-grade magical artifact to attack each other. Everything was in accordance with the rules. However, Lu Kuan noticed that their magic tools were much more powerful than the Foundation Establishment cultivator he had killed. They should be top-grade magic tools of the first level. Just as Lu Kuan was thinking, there was a new change in the field. Seeing that their magic tools were almost the same, they made new moves at the same time. He saw one of the white-clothed disciples slap a mid-grade, low-grade defensive talisman on himself. With this, he had 2 layers of defense. One was the magic shield, and the other was the defensive talisman. Then he took out a top-grade level 1 magic tool and controlled the 2 powerful magic tools to attack the opponent. On the other hand, the gray-clothed disciple took out 2 mid-grade, low-grade offensive spells and threw them at the opponent. When he saw the 2 magic tools coming at him, he hurriedly used his magic tool to block them. The gray-clothed disciple's 2 offensive spells only depleted his opponent's defensive barrier. In the end, the white-clothed disciple relied on his 2 magic tools to break his opponent's magic shield. The gray-clothed disciple could only admit defeat. After watching the battle, Lu Kuan shook his head and frowned. Compared to rogue cultivators, the Foundation Establishment cultivators of the Crafting Peak are much stronger in magic tools and talismans. However, their battle awareness is much worse. The gray-clothed disciple could have used his offensive talisman to block the magic tool's attack. Then he could have taken out a defensive magic tool and continued to fight. After the 2 disciples left the formation, Uncle Master Linghu said, "Number 25 and number 34. After saying this, he deliberately looked at Lu Kuan below. After Lu Kuan heard this, his expression became serious, and he slowly walked into the formation. Opposite him was a middle-aged disciple in blue. His magic power was very strong, and he had already reached the peak of the early stage of Foundation Establishment. The middle-aged disciple looked at Lu Kuan, who looked somewhat unfamiliar, and said with contempt, "Junior brother, you look unfamiliar. Could it be that you've just entered the Foundation Establishment stage?" Lu Kuan nodded and said, "Yes, Junior brother Lu Kuan. How should I address you, Senior brother?" The middle-aged disciple laughed sarcastically and said, "So it's Lu Shitty. Senior brother is already at the peak of the early stage of Foundation Establishment. My magic power is much stronger than yours. Junior brother has just entered the Foundation Establishment stage and probably hasn't had time to forge a top-grade level 1 magic tool. Just admit defeat and avoid hurting our friendship." Lu Kuan looked at the arrogant disciple and laughed instead of being angry. He said, "Junior brother wants to test senior brother's strength. Let's compete." The middle-aged disciple snorted and said, "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." Chapter 152. The middle-aged man quickly summoned a yellow longsword that exuded a powerful aura, revealing a mocking smile as he looked forward. The speed at which he can cast spells is so fast. He saw Lu Kuan's hands flicker with magic power, and 6 crimson fireballs emitting scorching energy appeared in front of him. It was actually a primary top-grade spell, the bursting fireball technique. In the blink of an eye, these bursting fireballs were shot towards him. Although the middle-aged man was surprised, he didn't take this primary spell seriously. He thought that Lu Kuan cast the spell to reduce the attack power of his longsword. The yellow longsword turned into a streak of sword light, shooting towards these fireballs. He believed that with the power of a powerful first-grade spiritual immortal treasure, he could extinguish these fireballs in one blow. Just as the yellow longsword and the fireballs collided, these fireballs quickly changed directions, nimbly dodging the longsword, and shot towards the middle-aged man. In an instant, they fused together, forming a huge fire snake. This man, who was at the peak of the early stage of Foundation establishment, saw that the power of this fused fireball was comparable to a mid-grade primary spell. He frowned and was about to stir up his magic power, releasing a Foundation establishment magic power shield. Suddenly, a dark green vine appeared under the man's feet, wrapping around his leg. This vine exuded a powerful and strange aura, causing the magic power in his body to stagnate. He was actually unable to release his magic power shield, and even the longsword magic weapon in the distance swayed and fell to the ground. This man discovered that Lu Kuan could actually cast 2 mid-grade primary spells at the same time, and cried out in shock, "Mutated spiritual roots. You actually have mutated spiritual roots." However, he was, after all, at the peak of the early stage of Foundation establishment, and his magic power was profound. At the same time, he took out a mid-grade defensive talisman and slapped it on his body, causing a powerful defensive shield to appear outside his body. Who knew that this fire snake didn't crash into the middle-aged man's magic power shield, but instead crashed into the vine under his feet? Not far away, a trace of sweat appeared on Lu Kuan's forehead. His hand formed a seal, and the vine under the man's feet became abnormally emerald green, shrinking into a small ball. At the same time, the fire snake also shrunk by more than half, crashing into the vine. Boom! A huge sound rang out. The fire snake seemed to have been poured with oil, and it exploded. A power equivalent to a mid-grade spell flashed from within, causing dust to fill the air. The huge explosion caused the nearby disciples to look over. They felt the power of this spell and were speechless. That martial uncle looks very familiar. He's at the early stage of Foundation establishment and the power of a mid-grade cultivator's attack. Hee, you didn't see the scene just now. This martial uncle must have mutated spiritual roots. He was able to control 2 kinds of mid-level magic at the same time and caught his opponent off guard. In the end, he even fused the power of the 2 spells together and unleashed it at the same time. It's amazing. No wonder people with mutated spiritual roots say that the combat power is amazing. A disciple standing outside the 3rd formation next door looked at Lu Kuan on the stage next door and asked in surprise, "Isn't that senior Marshall brother Lu?" Marshall. Senior brother. Are you talking about senior brother Lu, who completed the Red Name mission a few years ago? That's right. The surrounding Chi refinement stage disciples all showed a look of realization. So it's Marshall brother Lu. He has a mutated spiritual root. No wonder he dared to take those missions. On the stage, Lu Kuan could hear the discussions of the disciples below. However, he did not relax. After the previous explosion, he began to chant. Not long after, 2 authentic fire serpent technique appeared in front of him. After casting the spell, he let the 2 fire snakes rush forward, and the 2 fire snakes intertwined with each other, showing signs of merging. The dust in front of him had also dispersed, revealing a middle-aged man in a very sorry state. The protective talisman around his body had disappeared, and there were some burn marks on his body. In front of him, a huge umbrella-shaped magic tool was floating, flashing with light. At this moment, he saw the 2 fire snakes flying towards him. The fire snakes intertwined and quickly activated the Foundation Establishment Stage's magic power shield. The middle-aged man's face was very ugly. Just now, because he underestimated his opponent, he didn't activate his magic power shield at the beginning of the battle, and was controlled by the wood attribute magic. If his opponent didn't make the wood attribute's paralysis disappear when he fused the 2 spells, he wouldn't have been able to quickly take out this defensive magic tool and block this attack. Looking at the two fire snakes flying towards him, and then looking at his thick magic power shield and defensive magic tool, the middle-aged man felt a little relieved. He planned to use all his strength to activate the yellow sword that still fell on the ground after receiving this attack, and not let his opponent have a chance to release the magic. Suddenly, the two fire snakes changed direction and flew up at an angle. They quickly merged into a much smaller white fire snake and attacked from above with great power. The middle-aged man saw the power of this magic, and his mind relaxed. With the defensive power of his magic tool, he could completely take this attack head-on. Just as he controlled the umbrella-shaped magic tool to block the attack, a wave of magic power came from the ground nearby. He thought it was a mid-level vine spell, and felt that facing this kind of control magic, a magic power shield could resist, so he didn't pay it any attention. But then a lot of soil floated up from the ground and quickly turned into dozens of sharp stones and shot towards the middle-aged man. Stone Rain spell. The middle-aged man's expression changed slightly. This was an extremely powerful mid-level beginner-level spell. Every sharp stone had the power of a beginner high-level spell. With this wave, his foundation establishment stage mana shield would be a little strained. But even if he wanted to do something, it was already too late. The white fire snake hit the umbrella-shaped magic tool and violently exploded. All the sharp stones also shot towards the middle-aged man from all directions. The dazzling explosion of flames and the densely packed sharp stones completely blocked the vision of the people outside the spell formation. Lu Kuan looked at this somewhat arrogant senior brother drowned in these spells, and his eyes flashed with a golden light. A small throwing knife flashed with cold light and appeared in his hand. His magic power surged, and he used the telekinesis technique of ordinary cultivators to shoot it forward. When the withered old man in the sky saw Lu Kuan's action, a white light flashed from his sleeve. After Lu Kuan shot out the throwing knife, he discovered something. He looked at martial Uncle Linghu in the sky, and a magic power in his body calmed down. With a wave of his hand, the throwing knife returned to his side. Then the cultivators around the fourth spell formation heard the core formation stage ancestor in the sky say, "Number 34 wins." After the dust caused by Lu Kuan's magic dissipated, the middle-aged man's face was flushed with shame. He didn't say a word and walked out of the spell formation. The Qi condensation disciples outside the spell formation looked at this martial Uncle Linghu, who seemed to be uninjured, and were somewhat confused. When the power of the spell formation exploded, they didn't clearly see what happened. Only a few foundation establishment cultivators below the stage used their powerful divine sense to observe the scene inside. The middle-aged man's magic power and magic tools were indeed powerful, but under Lu Kuan's intentional design, he mainly dealt with the fused fire serpent technique from above and used a magic barrier to block all of the sharp stones. Afterwards, his magic barrier dimmed to the extreme. At this time, Lu Kuan's high-quality throwing knife struck this weak barrier. Although there was no psychic spell formation, the small knife magic tool's penetrative power wasn't weak. Under the urging of Lu Kuan's foundation establishment magic power, the small knife easily broke through the barrier. Just as the middle-aged man was horrified, thinking that he might be seriously injured or even killed, a white light blocked the flying knife. Then, the flying knife was taken back, and the white light shot toward Master's junior Uncle Linghu in the sky. The surrounding foundation establishment cultivators clearly saw that the white light was a magic ruler. At the critical moment, martial Uncle Linghu saved the life of this peak early foundation establishment cultivator. Seeing this result, the remaining foundation establishment cultivators all revealed dignified expressions. They didn't dare to look down on Lu Kuan in the slightest. After hearing martial Uncle Linghu announce the result, Lu Kuan walked out. He turned a deaf ear to the voices around him and quietly pondered over the use of the spell formation just now. In the previous month, he discovered that mid-level spells were much more difficult than low-level spells. With the talent of his mutated spiritual roots, he was able to comprehend low-level, mid-level spells in a short period of time. However, there was no way for him to familiarize himself with mid-level and mid-level spells within a month. He first studied the Fire Serpent technique and the mid-level Vine technique. Due to the uniqueness of his liquid magic power, he discovered that fire and wood spells could be used in conjunction with his hands. Just like how he ignited fire with wood to break through to the foundation establishment stage, the Fire Serpent technique would erupt with a stronger power under the stimulation of the wood attribute. However, this Vine technique required Lu Kuan to compress it. If the two were combined, Lu Kuan would compress the Fire Serpent technique with his powerful spiritual sense. The power of the explosion would be comparable to that of a mid-level spell formation. His divine sense at the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage could not only release multiple spells at the same time to complete his wood and fire combination spell, but he could also fuse two Fire Serpent spells at the middle stage of the Fire Serpent spell at the same time. During this month, Lu Kuan used most of his time to practice the combination of spells. At the same time, he also understood how important a powerful spiritual sense was for a traditional cultivator. In the end, in addition to the Fire Serpent technique and the Vine technique, Lu Kuan also had time to learn the Stone Rain technique. Thinking back to the previous battle, Lu Kuan shook his head and thought to himself, "It's a pity I couldn't compress the Vine technique at the same time as the Fire Serpent technique. Otherwise, the battle would have been much easier." Martial ancestor Ling Hu wasn't surprised by Lu Kuan's victory. He knew that Lu Kuan's innate talent was similar to Rellingan's and that he had a spirit-controlling magic tool. After reaching the foundation establishment stage, his battle prowess wouldn't be weak. I heard from junior martial brother Zhu that Lu Kuan used a self-created cultivation method to reach the foundation establishment stage. His cultivation method is very different from ordinary cultivators. It seems he still has some tricks up his sleeve. With that in mind, the core formation cultivator revealed a look of anticipation. Chapter 153. As time passed, the first round of the competition in the arrays had all ended. There were 16 Foundation Establishment disciples participating in the second round of the competition. Among these 16 people, only 7 disciples were at the early stage of Foundation Establishment. Lu Kuan was one of them. Apart from him, the other early-stage Foundation Establishment disciples were all rather famous. The other disciples who failed in the first round discovered Lu Kuan's unfamiliar face and began to inquire about him. Only then did they find out that Lu Kuan was a disciple who had just advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage. Furthermore, he had mutated spiritual roots and was very adept at using mid-level spells. He even had a powerful fusion spell. The ones who were most surprised were none other than Fatty Zhu and the others. Among the 4 of them, only the cold-faced man with the surname Zheng had entered the second round. There were still 2 mid-stage Foundation Establishment senior brothers in his ring. If nothing unexpected happened, they would be eliminated in this round. Fatty Zhu and the others had seen Lu Kuan before, so they all walked towards the 4th array. Fatty Zhu said with some emotion, "No wonder senior brother Zheng could enter the next round. He sensed that Lu Shitty was different that day, and we all misjudged him." The sallow and emaciated man beside him said, "I heard from a few Chi Refinement disciples that this Lu Shitty completed the Red Name mission in the Smart Demon Valley alone when he was in the Chi Refinement stage. To complete 3 missions in that place, it's clear that he has rich combat experience." Fatty Zhu slapped his head and said, "Let's go, it's about to start. Let's go take a look." I suddenly remembered that senior brother Chung is at the 4th array. The sallow and emaciated man asked doubtfully, "Senior brother Chung? Which senior brother Chung?" "You must know this senior brother Chung. His refining skills are powerful, but he's only good at refining one type of magic tool." The man suddenly thought of something, and his face revealed some shock. "A type of magic tool? Could he be? That's right. Yeah, the competition is about to start." Lu Kuan did not expend much of his magic power in the first round. After leaving the arena, with the help of the spirit-controlling magic tool, he quickly recovered his magic power to its peak. At this time, other than him, there were only 3 disciples left in the fourth formation. One of them was in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, while the other 2 were in the early stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Lu Kuan could feel the powerful mana of his senior apprentice brother in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. His expression was solemn as he lowered his head to think about how to fight. At that moment, Uncle Master Linghu, who was resting in the air, opened his eyes and opened the formation. He said, "The second round of the competition begins now. Number 8 and number 30, come in." When Lu Kuan heard this, he looked over and saw that this number 8 was the elder brother of the mid-foundation establishment stage. His face was calm, and his hair was slightly gray. His bright eyes were lined with wrinkles. It was a disciple who looked rather old. The other number 30 was the disciple in white who used 2 supreme-grade magical artifacts in the first round and defeated his opponent by surprise. After they entered the formation, the white-clothed disciple smiled bitterly and said, "Senior apprentice Brother Chung, I admit that I'm no match for you. I can only admit defeat." Hearing this, Senior Apprentice Brother Chung looked at him indifferently and said, "Junior Apprentice Brother Su, your strength seems to have improved. You can take this opportunity to test your strength. Don't you want to try?" "Even if I wanted to test my strength, I wouldn't challenge you. It's too dangerous to fight you," the white-clothed Junior Apprentice Brother Su muttered to himself. He laughed dryly and shook his head. He said to Senior Apprentice Brother Chung, "It was already very difficult for me to use 2 magical artifacts. The difference in strength is too great. I'm definitely no match for you." Then he said to the withered old man in the air, "Uncle Master Linghu, I admit defeat." Uncle Master Linghu nodded, not surprised at all. He waved his hand at the 2 people below. They respectfully bowed to the old man and walked out. Then the old man said, "Disciples number 34 and 29, come up and compete in the second round." Then Lu Kuan and another red-clothed disciple with a distressed expression walked up. The red-clothed disciple clasped his hands to Lu Kuan and said, "Lu Shitty, I'm Lu Shitty. I hope you'll go easy on me in the competition." Lu Kuan smiled and said, "So it's Senior Apprentice Brother you. We'll stop when it's time. It's just a spar." After the formation closed, the early-stage Foundation Establishment disciple called Yu Chun had a serious expression on his face. He immediately propped up a Foundation Establishment stage magic power shield. Then he grabbed 7 or 8 talismans and threw them at Lu Kuan. Finally, he took out 2 level 1 spiritual long sabers and threw them at Lu Kuan. He had seen Lu Kuan's previous match. As long as the opponent was careless, they would be suppressed by his continuous spells. So, Yu Chun took the initiative to drive the pace of the battle. Lu Kuan looked at the aggressive attacks coming from the opposite side and smiled. He waved his hands, and 2 long staff magic tools, one black and one dark red, appeared in front of him. The 2 magic tools spun quickly and turned into 2 black and red millstones, blocking the talismans. When Yu Chun saw that Lu Kuan didn't use any spells and instead summoned 2 top-grade magic tools, his expression relaxed. Although his refining skills weren't very good, he could tell at a glance that these 2 magic tools didn't have a psychic array. The spells and talismans he threw out were all elementary spells, so their power was not particularly strong. Therefore, Lu Kuan's unparalleled staff easily blocked them. Then the unparalleled staff and the 2 long blades on the opposite side clashed. As soon as the 2 sides came into contact, there was an ear-piercing sound of friction. Then Lu Kuan's 2 long staffs stopped spinning. After separating, they each faced a long saber. After the magic tools clashed a few times, the people under the formation noticed that Lu Kuan's weapons were suppressed by the long sabers. Seeing this, Fatty Zhu frowned and said, "Lu Shitty just advanced a Foundation Establishment. He didn't inscribe a spiritual formation, so his power isn't as good. But why didn't Junior Brother use a special spell?" The man beside him also had the same doubts and said, "I saw that Lu Shitty's expression was calm. He should have other tricks up his sleeve." Lu Kuan, who was in the formation, felt the strong attack power of the other party's magic tools inside. His peerless staff couldn't display the power of liquid magic, so it was being beaten back. Then, Lu Kuan divided his attention and released a spell. A mid-level elementary fire snake spell appeared beside the two peerless staff. It split into two and quickly climbed up. For a while, it was barely able to resist the other party's two magic tools. Although Lu Kuan's divine sense was powerful, under the control of these two top-grade magic tools, he could only release one mid-level spell at most. Not long after, the power of the fire snake spell dissipated, and the peerless staff was suppressed by the other party's long saber. Lu Kuan murmured, "It seems that after the competition, I have to inscribe a spiritual formation as soon as possible. Otherwise, I won't be able to display my full strength." It had to be known that without a spiritual formation, he wouldn't be able to display the full power of the magic tools in his hands. Seeing that junior brother Yu Chun showed some joy, Lu Kuan formed a spell with both hands. At the same time, his powerful divine sense burst out. The two long staffs flashed and quickly merged into a red and black long staff. Senior brother Chung, who was watching the battle below, felt Lu Kuan's divine sense and revealed an expression of as expected. He said to himself, "My previous feeling was right. This Lu Shidi's divine sense is about the same as the mid-level foundation establishment." But when he saw Lu Kuan's complete set of magic tools, he didn't reveal a surprised expression. But Yu Chun, who was fighting with Lu Kuan, was different. He cried out involuntarily, "A complete set of top-grade magic tools." Yu Chun felt that the opponent's combined magic tools were astonishing and began to suppress his two long swords. He was sweating profusely as he tried his best to stimulate his magic power to resist Lu Kuan's attacks. Out of the corner of his eye, he inadvertently glanced at Lu Kuan and revealed a trace of a bitter smile. At the same time, he saw his opponent use some beginner-level top-level spells. It turned out that after Lu Kuan used a set of magic tools, his divine sense was not enough to release intermediate-level spells, but many beginner-level spells were not a problem. These spells couldn't cause too much damage to a Foundation Establishment Cultivator's magic power shield. Yu Chun was at a disadvantage. These spells distracted him a little, and the two long swords were even more unable to resist. In the end, Yu Chun could only blink at Lu Kuan. Seeing that Lu Kuan stopped, he said with a bitter smile, "Lu Shidi is indeed powerful. I admit defeat." Martial Uncle Ling Hu, who was in the air, heard this and opened the formation. This time, the surrounding disciples were excited because they knew that Lu Kuan's next opponent was a Foundation Establishment middle stage disciple. They would be able to see the power of different spells. One must know that this was the true strength of a mutated spiritual root. The previous two disciples were both in the early stage of Foundation Establishment, the same stage as Lu Kuan. And this Foundation Establishment middle stage disciple was obviously an older disciple. His strength was extraordinary. He would definitely be able to make this powerful senior brother Lu use a powerful mutated spell. They didn't know that Lu Kuan didn't use the mutated spell because he didn't know how to use it. After about an hour, the core formation old man opened his mouth and said, "It's about time to rest. You two come up for the final round." After he finished speaking, he opened the formation. Lu Kuan and senior brother Chung walked up one after the other. Lu Kuan looked at this senior brother with deep magic power and frowned. He faintly felt that this senior brother was very difficult to deal with. He might have to use a body-refining attack to defeat him. On the other side, the Foundation Establishment middle stage man was also observing Lu Kuan. He smiled and said, "Lu Shidi, do you want to recover more magic power? I can wait." Lu Kuan was stunned for a moment. He said, "Thank you for your understanding, senior brother Chung. My magic power has already recovered. I hope senior brother Chung can be merciful." Martial Uncle Ling Hu saw that they were done with the formalities and closed the formation. Chapter 154. After Senior Martial Brother Chung saw the spell formation close, he looked at Lu Kuan indifferently and asked, "Junior Martial Brother, are you ready?" Lu Kuan was a bit puzzled as to why Senior Marshal Brother Chung kept reminding him, but he still replied, "Senior Marshal Brother Chung, I'm ready." Senior Marshal Brother Chung nodded, and a cold white light appeared in his hand. A golden light flashed in Lu Kuan's eyes, and his expression changed greatly. He couldn't care about hiding his moves anymore. White flames flickered under his feet, and he dodged to the side. At the same time, he released a Foundation Establishment Cultivator's magic power barrier, and a red and green halo flashed on the surface of his body. Soon after, a white light flashed past Lu Kuan's original position. It turned out that Lu Kuan was facing a great enemy, because he saw that the white light was a white flying needle magic tool. Moreover, it was at the level of Level 1 Spirit Communication. In the hands of this middle Foundation Establishment Cultivator, its speed and penetrative power were abnormally terrifying. No wonder Senior Marshal Brother Chung asked him about his magic power and if he was ready. He was afraid that Lu Kuan would misunderstand him for a sneak attack. Even so, Lu Kuan was still flustered. He constantly used the exploding essence steps to dodge the white flying needle magic tool's attacks. The chi condensation disciples below the stage were dazzled. They felt that this martial Uncle Lu was very strange. From the beginning of the battle, he was dodging left, right, front, and back. Moreover, he was using an escape technique that was unheard of. Soon after, some sharp-eyed disciples saw a white line constantly drawing, and Martial Uncle Lu was dodging the white line. Only then did they know that Martial Uncle Lu was dodging the attack. The Foundation Establishment Cultivators watching the battle were not like Lu Kuan. They all had some understanding of Senior Marshal Brother Chang's magic tool. When Senior Marshal Brother Chung took out the white flying needle, they saw it. Seeing the flying needles flying around and Lu Kuan constantly flashing, Fatty Zhu and the man next to him discussed the flying needle magic tool. The sallow and emaciated man next to him asked, "Fatty Zhu, I know that Senior Marshal Brother Chung specializes in refining flying needle magic tools, but I really don't know about his own magic tool." Fatty Zhu had a smug look as he said, "You don't say." "I do know. This is Senior Brother Chang's Gemini soul-chasing needle. You should know that the Gemini Soul Seeker needles are a set of flying needle magic artifacts. There is a silver needle and a white needle. The silver needle specifically targets magic artifacts. Inferior top-grade defensive magic artifacts would be pierced through by the silver needle. As for the other white needle, it's the one that chased after Lu Shidi in the formation. It's different from the silver needle in that it only targets spells and can easily penetrate a cultivator's defensive shield. Lu Shidi's battle instincts are very accurate. He didn't use the mana shield on his body to block the attack. Instead, he used an escape technique to dodge the attack. Otherwise, even if he had a mid-Foundation Establishment mana shield, he would still have been pierced by the white needle. After hearing this, the man's expression turned ugly. He said, "That is to say, if Senior Marshal Brother Chung uses flying needles to sneak attack an early Foundation Establishment Cultivator, it's basically a sure thing." Fatty Zhu looked at the scene in the formation and sighed. Isn't Lu Shidi at the early Foundation Establishment stage? Yet, he wasn't defeated in one move. It might be because Senior Marshal Brother Chang's set of flying needle magic artifacts only has a level 1 psychic formation inscribed on them. If it's a level 2 formation, the speed will increase. The man nodded and said, "It's already very difficult to refine flying needle magic artifacts, not to mention a set. It's too difficult to inscribe a formation on it." Fatty Zhu said, "It said that this level 1 psychic formation was inscribed by Marshal Uncle Zhu back then. Could it be that even Marshal Uncle Zhu can't inscribe a level 2 formation on the flying needle magic artifacts?" Fatty Zhu shook his head and said, "I'm not sure about that. It seems that Senior Marshal Brother Chung is unwilling to inscribe it." "I know. Is it because it's a level 2 formation that the set of magic artifacts can't be used?" Fatty Zhu said, "It's possible. However, I've never heard of the twin soul-chasing needles combination attack. I wonder if Lu Shidi can make Senior Marshal Brother Chung use this move." "Yeah, Senior Marshal Brother Chung summoned his silver needles again. In the formation, Senior Marshal Brother Chung saw that Lu Kuan's escape technique was strange and that he couldn't defeat his opponent with a single white needle. Therefore, he summoned his silver needles. The twin needles crisscrossed and attacked Lu Kuan, who was constantly dodging. The entire place was filled with silver and silver rays. The two rays of light crisscrossed as if they were weaving silk. Lu Kuan sighed inwardly. This Senior Marshal Brother Chang's combat experience was extremely rich. He had tried to use the primordial explosion steps to approach this Senior Marshal Brother several times, but he was blocked by the flying needles. His foundation establishment stage magic power barrier was penetrated by the white flying needle when it brushed past it. He didn't dare to let the red and green light barrier receive it head-on. The two flying needles quickly forced Lu Kuan into a corner of the formation. This Senior Marshal Brother is like a master of flying needles. He uses them so skillfully. It seems like I can't hide the combat style of a body cultivator. Lu Kuan thought to himself. Just as the two flying needles forced Lu Kuan into a corner and Senior Marshal Brother Chung was about to win, Lu Kuan suddenly took out the set of Dharma artifacts he used in the previous battle. Senior Marshal Brother Chung saw this and shook his head. This Lu Kuan's combat awareness isn't bad. Doesn't he know that the speed of his staff is much slower than my silver flying needles? There's no way he can defend against it. It's better to take out two defensive Dharma artifacts. Now, what is Lu Shitty doing? Senior Marshal Brother Chung saw Lu Kuan holding the two long Dharma artifacts with both hands. This action stunned all of the spectating disciples. To their knowledge, only mortals could use such a method of wielding weapons. They were all high and mighty cultivators who had always been able to control flying swords and Dharma artifact from afar. They were elegant and unrestrained existences. In the sky, Master Linghu's eyes lit up when he saw Lu Kuan's battle stance. His expression was one of anticipation. Senior Marshal Brother Chung didn't stop his attack because of Lu Kuan's strange actions. Lu Kuan grabbed the two rods with both hands, and an excited smile appeared on his resolute face. The red-green halo around his body shone brightly, and then a white flame burned on his arms. It looked similar to the true fire of the Foundation establishment stage, and this true fire directly climbed up the two rods. Then he quickly danced. Clang! Clang! There was a rapid sound of metal colliding. Lu Kuan, who should have been seriously injured by the two needles, was still alive and kicking. He actually held the two staffs with both hands and accurately blocked the flying needles. This time, Senior Marshal Brother Chung and the other Foundation establishment disciples who were watching the battle were all shocked. A Foundation establishment disciple said, "Those are the Gemini soul-chasing needles. It's a Dharma artifact that even the power of divine sense can't accurately determine its trajectory." Lu Shitty not only dodged so many attacks before, but he's also blocked them now. When Fatty Zhu, who was not far away, heard this, he also said, "That's right." Junior Brother Lu's expression was normal after receiving the attack. You have to know that in the previous battle, his two rods were not combined. Even an early-stage Foundation establishment Level 1 magic artifact found it difficult to block. Not to mention the Dharma artifact of a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. When Lu Kuan received the attack of the flying needles, Senior Brother Chang's expression changed slightly. As he controlled the flying needles, he could clearly feel the force generated by each hit of the flying needles by Lu Kuan. It was incomparably shocking. Not good. Senior Marshal Brother Chung saw Lu Kuan rushing towards him. He stirred up his Dharma power and continuously controlled the flying needles to block. However, this time, Lu Kuan had the matchless staff to block. In a few flashes, he arrived in front of Senior Marshal Brother Chung. Lu Kuan looked at the powerful mid-stage Foundation establishment stage Dharma power barrier in front of him. He didn't hesitate to use his two weapons to attack. Along the way, he would occasionally hit away a flying needle that was harassing him. However, this mid-stage Foundation establishment stage Dharma power barrier was abnormally thick. Lu Kuan really couldn't break it in a short period of time. Then, he put the two staffs together, and a red-black giant staff appeared in his hands. At this moment, while Lu Kuan was using the combination attack, Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's eyes lit up. His two flying needles also merged together and then seemed to disappear. The reason why Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's combination attack wasn't seen by many Foundation Establishment Stage disciples was because after the two needles merged together, they would become transparent. At the same time, the entire Dharma artifact would be very difficult to sense with divine sense. After merging, the flying needles combined the advantages of the two needles. They could penetrate both Dharma artifacts and Dharma power barriers. Their attacks could be said to be impossible to guard against. Clang! Another crisp sound rang out. Lu Kuan seemed to be able to see the hidden flying needle. The red-black giant staff directly hit the invisible Dharma artifact. As soon as the flying needles merged together, Lu Kuan sensed something strange. Fortunately, his golden eye divine ability was quite heaven-defying. He saw the direction of the invisible flying needle and blocked it in an instant. The penetrating power of the combined flying needle was terrifying. However, after Lu Kuan's unparalleled staff was added with the strange black stone from the Smart Demon Valley, its structure was stable. For a moment, the flying needle couldn't do anything to the unparalleled staff. However, the penetrating power of the flying needle penetrated the staff in his hand and entered Lu Kuan's body. Then, this penetrating power was withstood by Lu Kuan's demonic beast-level body. He was unscathed. Lu Kuan then quickly brandished the unparalleled staff and crazily hammered the barrier. Inside, Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's face was ugly. At this time, the unparalleled staff carried the power of vibration and a strange force into his body, making him feel very uncomfortable. What was even stranger was that his Dharma power was somewhat paralyzed. Whether it was casting spells or controlling Dharma artifacts, there was a lot of stagnation. It was as if he had been hit by a vine spell. This caused him to be unable to maintain the combination of the flying needles and split into two. Not long after, the Dharma power barrier was broken. Senior Marshal Brother Chung could only shake his head and admit defeat. In the sky, Uncle Master Ling Hu also didn't expect Lu Kuan to win in such a way. He announced, "The winner of the fourth array is number 34, Lu Kuan. He will participate in the semifinals tomorrow. Everyone disperse." I didn't expect there to be an early-stage Foundation Establishment Cultivator in the semifinals. Yeah, this early-stage Foundation Establishment Cultivator just advanced not long ago. He doesn't even have a level 1 spiritual immortal artifact. I think this Lu Shitty might really live on the 4th level. The other arrays are not finished yet. I still want to go take a look. Chapter 155. After Senior Marshal Brother Chung admitted defeat, he didn't reveal any strange expression. For someone as old as him, who had no hope of forming his gold core, this was nothing. However, he was very curious about the numbing power that Lu Kuan had used through the Transcendence Power Barrier. He had never seen an immortal artifact with such power, and he wanted to study Lu Kuan's immortal artifact to see why it was so hard. Unfortunately, Lu Kuan had been taken away by Marshal Uncle Ling Hu. Senior Marshal Brother Chung shook his head, summoned his flying immortal artifact, and flew back to his cave. He planned to improve his flying needles according to this battle. This was what he was truly interested in. When Lu Kuan arrived at the Sunset Pavilion, he saw the huge silver-spotted cheetah above. He was extremely surprised. When he was below, he couldn't see this powerful demonic beast lying on the ground. The silver-spotted cheetah raised its head and stood up. Its huge, oppressive body circled around Lu Kuan, causing Lu Kuan's hair to stand on end. In the end, the cheetah sniffed at him with its nose before lying back down. Lu Kuan relaxed. When the withered old man saw this, he thought for a while and said, "Lu Kuan, the little demonic beast that was playing with your spirit beast was the cub of this silver-spotted cheetah." Lu Kuan looked at the mighty and majestic cheetah and thought about the small body of the gray kitten. He really couldn't connect the two together. Martial Uncle Linghu continued. The silver-spotted cheetah's body will change greatly after it reaches adulthood. Little Gray is now at the level of a top-tier demonic beast. I believe it won't be long before it reaches adulthood. On the other hand, your spirit monkey's talent is astonishing. When I saw it today, I noticed that it was a little restless. The demonic spiritual energy in its body was roiling. I think it's about to become a second-tier demonic beast. Lu Kuan nodded and said, Martial Uncle is wise. After the competition, I need to go into seclusion with Xiao Jin and accompany it to become a second-tier demonic beast. Suddenly, two gray figures leaped up from the wall outside the pavilion. They were the two top-tier monsters that Lu Kuan and Martial Uncle Linghu had talked about. Xiao Jin quickly jumped onto Lu Kuan's shoulder, a relaxed and joyful expression blossoming on its monkey face. It swung its tail and did not seem to be as nervous as it was 2 days ago. Meanwhile, the gray kitten was lying on the back of the silver-spotted leopard with a satisfied look on its face. Its slender tail was wagging and occasionally sweeping across the leopard's face. The silver-spotted leopard seemed to be used to it. Its sapphire-blue eyes revealed a doting and helpless expression. Lu Shizhi, I brought you here because the owner of this silver-spotted leopard, Core Formation Senior Martial Brother Su Tianchuan of the Morning Sun Peak, is looking for you. He said he wants to. Hey, they're coming. Lu Kuan looked up and saw 3 people flying over the formation. One of them was a burly old man wearing a red robe. Lu Kuan knew that he was Martial Uncle Zhang Xingyu of the Weapon Refining Peak. He also knew Zhu Siming beside him. The last one was a somewhat fat, unfamiliar old man. He must be Martial Uncle Su of the Morning Sun Peak. After Martial Uncle Su landed, he looked at Lu Kuan with a smile and asked, This is Lu Shizhi, right? Lu Kuan bowed to the people who came over and replied, Yes, Martial Uncle Su. The old man clicked his tongue and looked at the little monkey on Lu Kuan's shoulder with interest. Xiao Jin was a little scared by his gaze and could not help but bare its teeth at him. It was not afraid of the powerful aura on his body at all. Then Lu Kuan heard the old man say, Lu Shizhi, I'll get straight to the point. I asked Brother Linghu to bring you here. I just want to ask if you can give this spirit monkey to me. I can exchange it with something of the same value. When Lu Kuan heard this, he revealed a difficult expression and said, Martial Uncle Su, Xiao Jin is my bloodline spirit beast. I can't give it to you. Hearing this, the surrounding Core Formation elders were a little enlightened. No wonder they felt that this spirit monkey was so intelligent. It turned out that it was a bloodline spirit beast. Lu Kuan did not spread this around. Only Gu Tianjian and Qin Yushu knew about this. Martial Uncle Su revealed a puzzled expression and turned to look at the silver-spotted leopard on the ground. The silver-spotted leopard seemed to sense something and looked at Martial Uncle Su. The leopard nodded its head lightly. This Core Formation intermediate stage, Cultivator murmured, I didn't expect it to really be a bloodline spirit beast. At this moment, Zhu Siming looked at Lu Kuan, who was in a daze, and said, Lu Kuan, there's nothing for you to do here. You can go back. Lu Kuan nodded his head and bowed to the few completion stage uncles before slowly walking downstairs. After Lu Kuan left, Martial Uncle Zhang said, The silver-spotted leopard probably didn't sense wrongly. You old man, you actually coveted a foundation establishment stage disciple's spirit beast. Martial Uncle Su heard this and glared at him. He said, I saw that it was about to break through and couldn't help but want to take it to help it break through. Since they really have a bloodline contract, there's nothing I can do about it. But there's really a lot of talent in your weapon refining peak. This disciple's cultivation is only at the beginning stage of the foundation establishment stage, but he's actually the winner of the 4th formation. These Core Formation stage cultivators had powerful divine senses. Although they were separated by the formation, they could still sense the battles in the other formations. They saw several of Lu Kuan's battles. Zhu Siming nodded his head and said, Lu Shizhi's talent is extraordinary. He created his own cultivation method and succeeded in building his foundation using ancient methods. It's understandable that he's so powerful. This made Su Tianchuan of the Morning Sun Peak interested. He asked, he created his own cultivation method to build his foundation? Really? Tell me about it. That's right, old man Zhang. Let's talk inside your cave. I've been drooling over that bottle of 100-year-old spirit wine for a long time. Then, these core formation stage cultivators flew towards Zhang Xingyu's cave on the top floor. After Lu Kuan left the Sunset Pavilion, he happened to meet Fatty Zhu and a dozen other Foundation Establishment Stage disciples. He went up to them and got to know them. Lu Kuan relied on the name he made today. Not a single Foundation Establishment Stage disciple looked down on him. They all treated him as a Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator. They got to know each other, and Lu Kuan integrated into the circle of weapon refining peak Foundation Establishment Stage disciples. From chatting along the way, Lu Kuan also learned about the other 3 victorious disciples. One of them was Yi Zetian. He had the highest cultivation level among the participating disciples. He was in the late Foundation Establishment Stage. In several battles, his opponents either admitted defeat or relied on a level 3 spiritual immortal treasure to crush them. The other 2 were both in the middle Foundation Establishment Stage. One was called Sun Haowen. He had Rellingan's talent and easily defeated his opponent with his powerful lightning-type spells. The last one was called Li Haiyang. Compared to the previous 2, his strength was slightly weaker. He relied mainly on his cultivation level at the peak of the middle Foundation Establishment Stage to barely win. On the 3rd floor, after Lu Kuan separated from Fatty Zhu and the others, he entered his cave and began to think about the next battle. Among his opponents, even the weakest one was at the peak of the middle Foundation Establishment Stage. After the previous few battles, Lu Kuan knew that the maximum power he could unleash with his spells was close to the middle Foundation Establishment Stage. He couldn't break through the defense of a middle Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator. If his matchless staff was controlled by the telekinesis technique, its individual strength would be weaker than a level 1 spiritual immortal treasure. After combining, it would only be slightly stronger than 2 level 1 immortal treasures. But when he wielded the matchless staff, its individual strength would be comparable to a top level 1 immortal treasure. That was why he could easily send senior apprentice Brother Cheng's flying needles flying. After he combined the matchless staff, he was able to break through a middle Foundation Establishment Stage cultivator's barrier with just a few hits. This meant that it had the strength of a level 2 immortal treasure. Moreover, the matchless staff's quality was very high. Even senior apprentice Brother Cheng's flying needles couldn't penetrate it. Its quality wasn't inferior to any immortal treasure. That's right. When I attacked senior apprentice Brother Cheng at the end, liquid dermic power entered the matchless staff. Every time I attacked, his dermic power would be paralyzed. It was as if he was controlled by the Vine technique and couldn't summon any other immortal treasures. Could it be because my cultivation technique has fused with the primordial tree body tempering art? After that, Lu Kuan went into deep thought in the immortal cave. Not long after, his eyes lit up and he walked into the refining room in the immortal cave. Sounds of hammering could be heard coming from inside. The next morning, in front of the Sunset Pavilion on the 4th floor of the weapon refining peak, there was a huge formation. The area covered by this formation was 3 times larger than yesterday's formations. This way, the disciples fighting inside would have enough space to fight. 3 Foundation Establishment disciples stood beside this formation. One of them was a skinny, dark-skinned, middle-aged man. He looked around restlessly, worried that he might lose something. The other 2 disciples were expressionless. They had their eyes closed and were adjusting their breathing. As for the outer ring, it was filled with Qi condensation disciples. These disciples were chattering excitedly. The other Foundation Establishment disciples were hovering in the air outside the formation on their magic tools. The person presiding over the competition this time was Zhang Xingyu, the core formation cultivator with the highest cultivation level in the weapon refining peak. He looked at the three disciples below and frowned. Many of the Foundation establishment disciples who chatted with Lu Kuan yesterday were puzzled. Fatty Zhu said, "That's impossible. Lu Shidi looked fine yesterday and wasn't injured. Why isn't he here yet? Does he want to give up?" It turned out that the other three disciples who had entered the top four were already standing beside the formation. The only one who hadn't arrived was Lu Kuan. Just as the tall and sturdy old man above the array was about to make an announcement, a small azure boat shot over from not far away and arrived in front of the array in a short while. It was Lu Kuan. He was sweating profusely as he cupped his fists and said to the old man, "Uncle Zhang, I'm so sorry. I almost missed the competition." Zhang Xingyu snorted and said, "If you came a moment later, I would have considered you forfeited." He waved his hand at Lu Kuan and had him stand below. Then he said in a clear voice, "Since the last four disciples have arrived, the competition will begin immediately. You will draw a wooden tablet here. The two people who draw the same number will compete. The winner will enter the competition for first place. The two who lose will compete for third place." After he finished speaking, the core formation cultivator summoned a magic tool that looked like a wine jar and flew it to each person. Chapter 156. After Lu Kuan received the token, a lean man in front of him looked at him. The token in his hand was also number 2. Lu Kuan heaved a sigh of relief. This lean man was Li Haiyang, the disciple in the middle foundation establishment stage who was slightly weaker in overall strength. Although Lu Kuan had prepared himself yesterday, it was inevitable that he would have to use his trump card if he were to face two powerful opponents right from the start. Zhang Xingyu, who was in the air, saw that everyone had chosen their tokens. He used his divine sense and said, "For the first round, the two of you with number 1 will go up." Then, under the expectant gazes of the surrounding disciples, a middle-aged man with short hair and a resolute face slowly walked up. He was the only late Foundation establishment stage cultivator among these disciples, Yi Zetian. Opposite him was a handsome man with a dignified expression. It was the Relian talent, Sun Haowen. "Senior brother Yi, I didn't expect to meet you in the first round," said the handsome man, Sun Haowen. Yi Zetian said indifferently, "What's the difference between the first round and the second round? It's just that we're a little late." Sun Haowen nodded and said, "That's right. Then let's have a good competition and see who's the strongest." The words of these two people showed that they didn't care about the other two at all. As the array closed, the two people began to move. Yi Zetian first propped up a dermic power shield, then raised his hand and summoned 2 dermic treasures. There were 2 flywheel dermic treasures that emitted a powerful aura. One was gold, and the other was silver. The gold flywheel had a circle of sharp blades around it. It was still spinning slowly, and the golden light on it was rather dazzling. The other silver flywheel had the same internal shape, but the outermost layer didn't have a sharp blade, only a circle of pale white material. When the surrounding disciples saw this, they were stunned. They had never seen this pair of dermic treasures before. In the previous round, Yi Zetian had only used a grade 3 flying sword to defeat his opponent. Now, the 2 dermic treasures he had summoned were powerful dermic treasures that were both offensive and defensive. They couldn't be refined by ordinary people. Judging from their auras, they were all level 3 spiritual immortal treasures. The only question was whether they were a set. If they were, Sun Haowen's chances of victory would be extremely low. When Sun Haowen saw this pair of magic tools, his expression changed slightly. However, he already knew that this senior brother's refining skills were extraordinary, so he didn't panic. A purple shield of magic power appeared around Sun Haowen's body. Then, he summoned a pair of metal gloves. Purple light flashed on the gloves, and he put them on. Then, purple lightning balls appeared on his hands one after another. A total of 6 lightning balls appeared, and each one emitted a heart-palpitating aura. They were all close to the aura of an intermediate or mid-tier spell. Lu Kuan broke out in a cold sweat. The power of his fire and wood fusion spell was about the same as that of a lightning ball. He said in a daze, thunder attribute spells are so powerful. Even Martial Uncle Zhang and the other core formation Martial Uncles from the Sunset Pavilion looked over. Martial Uncle Zhang, who was in the air, said, "This magic tool is really powerful. It can actually turn the Thunder Palm into a lightning ball. It's easier to control and even increases its power. It's quite profound." Some of the Foundation establishment disciples in the air, with sharp ears, heard the words of the core formation Martial Uncle. Their faces were filled with fear. The Thunder Palm was a beginner-level spell. Its combined power was close to that of a beginner-level spell. However, its weakness was that the direction of its attack was very direct and could be easily dodged by the enemy. Not only did this magic tool turn the Thunder Palm into a lightning ball, making it easier to control and increase the power of the Thunder Palm. With just these lightning balls, Sun Haowen's strength was comparable to that of a Foundation establishment late-stage cultivator. Senior Brother Chung, who lost to Lu Kuan, was also among the disciples. He looked at the gloves and the lightning balls beside Sun Haowen. The senior disciple couldn't help but say, in a low voice, "We all thought that Junior Brother Sun's refining skills were only average. It turns out that we were all wrong. He actually made such a powerful auxiliary magical tool for his Thunder Spirit Root." When Yi Zetian saw Sun Haowen's gloves, his face changed. When he saw the lightning balls beside Sun Haowen, his face sank. His gold and silver magic tools danced up and down. The golden blades on the outside of the magic tool spun even faster. It was obvious that he was not calm. The two of them seemed to be afraid of each other's methods. For a moment, neither of them made a move. Suddenly, Sun Haowen looked at his opponent's magic tool and seemed to have discovered something. 3 lightning balls suddenly shot forward. Yi Zetian also moved. The golden flying wheel in front of him suddenly flashed with a blinding golden light and slashed towards Sun Haowen, who was not far away. When Lu Kuan, who was watching the battle from outside, saw this golden light, he immediately thought of the ultimate move of the Yi siblings from the Qingzhou Yi clan. The same golden light. It also needs to accumulate power. This golden light was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Sun Haowen and disappeared along with the 3 lightning balls he shot out. In the end, only a faint golden light remained and hit Sun Haowen's magic barrier. It did not break through. It turned out that when Yi Zetian's golden flying wheel was summoned, it was already spinning slightly. It was already accumulating power. He planned to secretly catch his opponent off guard. Unfortunately, Sun Haowen noticed. Then, the two of them made their next move at the same time. Yi Zetian directly controlled the golden flying wheel to rush towards his opponent. It was like a golden circular blade. Under the full power of his late Foundation establishment stage magic power, it emitted a sharp light. When Sun Haowen shot out the first 3 lightning balls, his hands began to compress the remaining 3 lightning balls. He revealed a strained expression. His handsome face was even a little distorted. The purple gloves would occasionally emit a little bit of electricity and add to the lightning balls in the middle. Boom! A loud sound. It was as if thunder had struck in the sky. A deep purple ball of lightning appeared between the pair of purple gloves. Sun Haowen seemed to exert a lot of effort to push the ball of lightning out, and it hit the golden wool magic tool that was shooting towards him. The ball of lightning directly sent the golden flywheel flying. Then, as if Sun Haowen had lost control, the powerful ball of lightning flew diagonally upwards. The array surrounding the two of them did not cover the sky, so the ball of lightning shot directly into the clouds in the sky. Below, Yi Zetian's expression was not very good. The lightning ball, just now, was very powerful. When it hit his golden flying wheel, the lightning element magic had a paralyzing effect. It caused his magic power to be slightly paralyzed through the magic tool. As for his golden magic tool, it was dull from the lightning strike and fell to the ground. For a while, he could not recall it. Yi Zetian murmured, "I didn't expect the lightning element magic to be more powerful than the rumors. Not only is its destructive power great, the side effects are also so great." Then, Yi Zetian looked up at the sky with a surprised expression. He no longer cared about the golden magic tool on the ground. Instead, he took out a high-level talisman and slapped it on himself with a heartache. A thick, earthy yellow shield appeared around his body. It turned out that Sun Haowen had taken advantage of the fact that Yi Zetian was affected by the power of lightning to chant something. The white cloud above Yi Zetian that had been struck by the lightning ball earlier turned pitch black, and an oppressive feeling descended from the sky. Lightning fall. How is this possible? This is a top mid-level lightning element magic. Even Master Zhang revealed a somewhat surprised expression. He whispered, although it's a trick and the power of the magic released is a little weaker, the related characteristics are not changed. Yi Zetian's expression was very ugly. The power of this lightning fall was not bad. The most frightening thing was that it was different from the lightning palm. It would lock onto the opponent and hit the target. Chapter 157. Boom! A loud sound rang out. A thick purple lightning bolt fell from the black cloud and struck towards Yi Zetian. Sun Haowen was sweating profusely, but his expression was very excited. He said excitedly, "Thunderfall, haha, I really used it." He spent nearly 100 years collecting a lot of lightning-related materials to refine this purple metal glove. It took him a lot of energy. This magic tool not only increased the casting speed of his lightning-type spells, but it also reduced the consumption of his divine sense and increased the power of his lightning-type spells. Previously, he relied on this glove to compress the fused lightning ball. Because of the amazing power of the fused lightning ball, it was very difficult for him to control it with his divine sense. There was no way to hit the opponent who could dodge. Therefore, he aimed at the cloud in the sky. After the cloud was filled with the power of thunder and lightning, he could release a simple thunderfall with the help of the glove. The power of his simplified thunder fall mainly came from the fused lightning ball, but it had the ability to lock onto the opponent. Previously, when his fused lightning ball knocked away the opponent's magic tool, it made the opponent's magic power stagnate. He was able to seize the time to use this killer move. The real Thunderfall had the power of an intermediate top-grade spell, which was not something he could use now. However, the simplified Thunderfall was still powerful. Even if it could not break the opponent's defense, the side effect would still paralyze the opponent's magic power for a period of time. At this time, he could defeat Yi Zetian without the help of a magic tool with his ordinary lightning ball. Just when Sun Haowen felt that victory was in his hands, the silver metal on the opponent's silver flywheel fell off and turned into a pure white flywheel. What? White clay spiritual earth? Sun Haowen cried out involuntarily, as if he had seen something incredible. Everyone saw the thick purple lightning bolt hit the white flywheel. The lightning bolt shot in all directions and repelled it. It directly pressed against the yellow magic shield outside Yi Zetian, but there was no way to break through the white defense. During this stalemate, Sun Haowen released a few more lightning balls, but they were all blocked by the unusually strong yellow defensive shield. Not long after, the lightning bolt of the simplified Thunderfall was exhausted. Yi Zetian revealed a confident expression. The golden flywheel on the ground began to spin again, quickly attacking the somewhat surprised Sun Haowen. This Rellingan disciple, who had just released 2 big moves, quickly summoned a level 2 psychic hammer. While blocking the golden flywheel, he tried to attack the white flywheel. However, his ordinary lightning balls were all blocked by the golden flywheel. No matter which flywheel his opponent's flywheel hit, it had no effect. The fused lightning ball could not be released when the opponent was alert. Even if it was released, Yi Zetian could use the flywheel refined, white clay spiritual earth to block it. After all, Sun Haowen's mana couldn't be compared to the late Foundation establishment stage. After exchanging a few rounds of blows, without the element of surprise from lightning spells, Sun Haowen could only be defeated and die. A month ago, when Yi Zetian found out about this competition, he took out the white pottery spiritual earth that he had stored. This white pottery spiritual earth was one of the few materials that could resist the power of thunder and lightning. It could only be found in high mountains where thunder and lightning frequently erupted. He spent a lot of effort to refine this white flywheel with a white clay spiritual earth. He also spent a lot of effort to upgrade it to a level 3 psychic immortal treasure. Otherwise, it might not have been able to block the simplified thunderfall. In the following battle, Yi Zetian relied on this special defensive magic treasure to block the opponent's lightning magic. However, this white flywheel was very fragile. If it encountered a pure magic treasure attack, it would be very difficult to block. This was the reason why Yi Zetian refined it into a flywheel. It could be used together with his other magic treasure, the Golden Moon Flywheel, to attack and defend. Without being affected by the paralyzing power of the thunder magic, he defeated Sun Haowen with his profound cultivation base. In the air, Marshal Uncle Zhang had already seen through the true nature of the white flywheel. He smiled and sighed in his heart. These two are indeed the elite disciples of my crafting peak. They both know how to use the art of refining to increase their strength to the greatest extent. He then announced, the first round of the competition is Yi Zetian's victory. The spectating disciples feasted their eyes on Sun Haowen's magical gloves at the beginning, then that exquisite lightning spell combination, as well as the lightning fall that he used in tandem with it. Later on, Yi Zetian used a defensive flywheel that could counter lightning and another golden flywheel. It was a clever combination of offense and defense. This allowed them to experience the glory of the elite disciples of Crafting Peak. They used the art of refining to increase their strength in all aspects. If their defense was insufficient, they would refine unique magic treasures. If their magic was too strong to control, they would research magic treasures that could support magic. My two senior brothers are really amazing. It's funny that I learned the art of refining just to earn more spirit stones. Why can't I research magic treasures that are really suitable for me? After watching this competition, a disciple seemed to have understood a great principle. Lu Kuan, who was below the stage, had the deepest feeling. Didn't Yao Wufeng, who he first met, develop amazing spiritual control magic treasures to make up for his shortcomings? And didn't he himself also explore the art of refining that was really suitable for him to refine his body? Next, Lu Kuan and Li Haiyang will compete in the second round. The spectating disciples were still looking forward to the next round, mainly because they had never seen Lu Kuan's fighting style before. They were very curious about his combat strength. La Xinhua, who had seen Lu Kuan fight before, would not go around announcing his failure. When Lu Kuan heard the words of this uncle master, he stopped thinking and walked into the spirit design. Looking at the spacious field, he was speechless. These uncle masters were clearly not giving him the chance to use his advantage. The other skinny man, Li Haiyang, also walked in. He carefully walked to the place furthest away from Lu Kuan and waited for the spell formation to close. He immediately summoned a flying boat and jumped on it. Then, he quickly rose into the air. Lu Kuan was left dumbfounded on the ground. This Li Haiyang was very cautious. As early as the day before, he had asked many disciples who were watching Lu Kuan fight. In the end, he found out that Lu Kuan's strong points were his strange escape technique, as well as the attack speed and power of the magic treasures in his hands. But these strong points were useless in the sky. Separated by the sky, this strange junior brother could only use magic treasures to attack, and their power was greatly reduced. Looking at Lu Kuan below, who was at a loss, Li Haiyang was a little proud. He summoned a magic ruler that emitted the power of a level 2 psychic and attacked Lu Kuan. Then, he saw Lu Kuan take out a pair of long staff magic treasures. Li Haiyang was a little puzzled. Didn't you say that one staff was black and the other dark red? Why are both black? Clang! Lu Kuan could even catch a flying needle magic treasure, so this magic ruler was nothing. He crossed the two staffs and calmly caught the level 2 psychic magic treasure. But then, Li Haiyang saw Lu Kuan stagger 2 steps back from the power of his magic ruler. Although my magic ruler's penetrative power is not as good as senior brother Cheng's, With my cultivation at the peak of the middle stage, the power of this magic treasure is still stronger than the flying needles. Then, Li Haiyang used all his strength to activate this magic ruler, continuously attacking Lu Kuan, intending to exhaust his magic power. His magic power was much stronger than Lu Kuan's. But Li Haiyang didn't realize that Lu Kuan used his staffs to block the magic ruler's attack every time. He didn't use his physical strength to knock the magic ruler away. Chapter 158. As the battle progressed, Li Haiyang, who was in midair, felt that something was amiss. This early Foundation establishment junior martial brother had already received more than 10 of his attacks. Although he seemed to be in a sorry state, he was still full of energy. That's right. Why isn't he dodging? Why is he taking my attacks head on? Why is he so close to me? He discovered that Lu Kuan had unknowingly swayed below him and was only about 70 to 80 feet away from him. Suddenly, Lu Kuan's leg muscles intertwined and bulged. At the same time, a white flame erupted from his feet. His entire body shot up like an arrow. Li Haiyang was startled. He controlled the flying boat to ascend. He didn't have time to use his ruler to attack. Instead, he took out a defensive magic tool. After Lu Kuan jumped into the air, the white flame beneath his feet suddenly split into two colors, red and green. Soon after, the sound of flames exploding could be heard. Lu Kuan seemed to be stepping on flames as he soared into the air at an even faster speed. His entire body flashed with a red and green light, and his muscles swelled. He was using his full strength at this time. The same red and green flames exploded 3 times. Lu Kuan had already arrived in front of Li Haiyang. He revealed an excited smile at his opponent who had summoned a defensive shield. Soon after, Lu Kuan's pair of black rods struck towards the defensive shield. After feeling Lu Kuan's attack, Li Haiyang's expression changed. He clenched his teeth and took out a talisman. He activated it, and a yellow defensive barrier appeared around his body. At this time, Li Haiyang had 3 layers of defense. The outermost layer was a level 2 spiritual shield. The middle layer was a yellow defensive barrier activated by the talisman. The innermost layer was a mid-foundation establishment magic barrier. Seeing this, Lu Kuan raised his eyebrows. Soon after, the black rod struck towards Li Haiyang at a speed comparable to Senior Marshal Brother Cheng's flying needle magic tool. Bang, bang, bang. At the same time, the red and green light under Lu Kuan's feet continued to explode, and the sound of explosions continued to ring out. Coupled with the brute force of the frequent attacks of the twin staves, Li Haiyang was sent flying into the air. After a while, Li Haiyang's face turned pale, as if he had run out of mana. The flying boat under his feet and the shield in front of him shook and then fell down. Then, Lu Kuan's attack landed directly on the magic shield. Li Haiyang was incomparably terrified. Every time Lu Kuan attacked, there would be a trace of numbness, making it difficult for him to steadily output his magic power. Although the paralysis effect was very small, it could not stop Lu Kuan's rapid attacks. Without the flying boat and the defensive shield, if he hadn't cautiously used a middle-grade high-grade talisman, his middle-grade Foundation establishment protective shield wouldn't have lasted for too long. All of this happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. The spectating disciples could see that under Lu Kuan's feet, red and green lights were constantly flashing. It was as if he was flying through the air. He directly knocked Li Haiyang's magic weapon to the ground. In this short period of time, the two of them were already hundreds of feet above the ground in the air. This was the 4th level of the weapon refining peak. If they were to go up another 100 feet, they would have already surpassed the height of the 5th level and entered the clouds. The chi condensation disciples below were so shocked that their jaws were about to drop. The Foundation establishment disciples in midair also looked blankly at Li Haiyang, who had been knocked into the air. They had never seen such a violent battle. Looking at Lu Kuan's storm-like close-range attacks, while they were frightened, they also faintly felt their blood boil. Fortunately, the magic shield was abnormally strong. Li Haiyang was unable to counterattack in this series of attacks, but he was not defeated for the time being. When Lu Kuan and Li Haiyang were hundreds of feet in the air, Lu Kuan's feet stopped exploding. Just when Li Haiyang felt that he could control his own magic power, he saw Lu Kuan quickly fuse the two rods into an incomparably pitch-black giant rod. Facing that slightly dimmed yellow shield of his, Lu Kuan's earth-shattering attack smashed it to the ground. An even stronger numbing force was felt. At the same time, green and red flames appeared behind Lu Kuan's feet. In the roar, he chased after Li Haiyang at an even faster speed. Then, Lu Kuan's pitch-black giant rod was covered with white flames. He raised it high above his head, and the red and green shield around his body trembled. The second attack, Li Haiyang, together with the dimmed magic shield, was like a big rubber ball, violently smashing into the ground. And Lu Kuan was also stopped in midair by the reaction force. His eyes flashed with golden light, and his face was flushed red as he looked at the falling Li Haiyang. Shaking his head, he gave up on the third attack that he was supposed to have. He quickly took out the green flying boat from his storage bag and flew down. Boom! The ground shook and dust flew everywhere. Seeing this scene, the corners of the disciples' mouths twitched. The force of falling from hundreds of feet in the air was already incomparably terrifying. Coupled with Lu Kuan's two rods, they could not imagine what kind of force it was. The dust gradually dispersed. Lu Kuan had already controlled the green boat to land on the ground. There was a deep pit in the ground. Li Haiyang's magic shield had already disappeared, and his whole body was lying in the pit like a dead fish. However, his life force was quite strong. He did not die, but rather fainted from the shock. At this time, there was no need for Zhang Xingyu to announce the result. Everyone knew that the winner was Lu Kuan. This battle could be said to be even more shocking than the previous one. The previous battle between the two opponents was very exciting, but this battle refreshed their understanding of Lu Kuan's battle. This junior brother who had just advanced to the Foundation establishment stage, when fighting, was like a violent second-tier top demon beast. His pair of black rods were the demon beast's sharp claws. As long as he got close, he would fall into the rhythm of this human-shaped demon beast. They also all understood that Lu Kuan was faking it from the beginning, in order to make Li Haiyang lower his guard and walk directly under Li Haiyang. Li Haiyang, and even the other spectating disciples, did not expect Lu Kuan's escape technique to be able to fly in the air in an instant. No, the short distance was even more terrifying than flying in the air. The rapid burst of speed was frightening. Soon after, Li Haiyang was hit by some unknown spell and lost his flying boat and shield. If he had not cautiously used a high-grade defensive talisman, he would have been defeated in the air. After watching this battle, Yi Ziqian and Sun Haowen, who originally did not put Lu Kuan in their eyes, revealed dignified expressions. This junior brother's attack power was not as high as theirs. Otherwise, he would not have been unable to break through his opponent's magic shield. However, his battle awareness was very frightening. He knew how to use the advantage of his divine ability and the effect of gravity to increase the power of his attacks. In the end, he was able to knock his opponent out. Zhang Xingyu, who was in the air, also revealed a shocked expression. Yesterday, Zhu Siming had told them in detail about Lu Kuan's body tempering technique. He could not help but think, Lu Shiji's body tempering technique is really terrifying. After cultivating his body, it is definitely not inferior to some second-tier demon beasts. His strength might even be stronger. But what kind of divine ability is this green light? It can actually make a mid-stage Foundation establishment cultivator unable to release his magic power? Could this be the unique divine ability of Lu Shiji's body tempering technique? My crafting peak has so many geniuses. In 100 years, we will definitely prosper. Lu Kuan did not know of his core formation stage martial uncle's size. Looking at the dizzy Li Haiyang, his face was flushed with excitement. The day before, when he was fighting with senior martial brother Chung, he discovered that the fusion of the twin rods could produce a paralyzing effect. Only then did he realize that his white, liquid magic power contained would attribute spiritual power. Moreover, he had also cultivated the mid-level vine technique. Because his technique combined fire and wood body tempering techniques, he unconsciously used the numbing power of the primordial tree during the battle. After careful research, he discovered that the source of this paralyzing power was the black rock that he had fused with his twin rods last time. Lu Kuan decided to spend some time fusing the remaining black rock into the unparalleled rods. Back then, when he was at the great circle of chi refinement, he was already able to refine top-grade magic tools. Now that he was at the early stage of foundation establishment and had a strong divine sense, he easily refined the two rods. In the end, they both turned black. This way, a single rod could also produce a paralyzing effect. This paralyzing effect was more obvious for early-stage foundation establishment cultivators. However, when faced with the profound magic power of a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator, it was somewhat lacking. Therefore, when Lu Kuan started attacking Li Haiyang, he was still able to take out a defensive talisman. Then, Lu Kuan increased the frequency of his attacks and was able to interrupt the circulation of his opponent's magic power. As for sending him down from the sky, Lu Kuan wanted to unleash his immense strength to the maximum. He was attacking with magic tools, so his magic power could not be maximized. So how could he maximize his tens of thousands of kilograms of brute force? Using gravity. As expected, with the combination of brute force and the acceleration of gravity, it only took him 2 attacks to directly defeat the shield that was unusually strong for him. His golden eyes saw clearly that if the last paralyzing effect had not disappeared and Li Haiyang had thrown out a defensive talisman without any regard for his life, he really could have died. Chapter 159. In the Sunset Pavilion, the 3 core formation cultivators of the weapon refining peak were discussing Lu Kuan. Ling Hu Yi, the core formation stage old man with a haggard face, opened his mouth and said, "Junior Brother Zhu, according to your previous description and today's competition, Lu Kuan's physical strength is comparable to a level 2 demonic beast. However, I feel that his most powerful aspect is his battle awareness." Zhang Xingyu added, "Yeah, I was already surprised that Lu Shizhi could defeat Li Haiyang. However, his next opponent is a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Whether it's cultivation or magic tools, he's much stronger than Lu Kuan. It'll be difficult for him to win." Ling Hu Yi said, "Yeah, before he engraved a level 1 psychic array, his magic tool's attack power was still lacking. Previously, he took advantage of his opponent's defenseless state to defeat him. Doesn't that mean that after Lu Shizhi's magic tool is upgraded, his strength can be comparable to a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator?" Zhu Siming thought of something and said, "Could it be that cultivators with hidden spiritual roots are all-powerful? Back then, Senior Marshal Brother Nya was able to fight a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator with his early-stage foundation establishment cultivation. His strength is very similar to Lu Kuan's strength now." Zhang Xingyu shook his head and said, "It's not the same. We're all very clear about Junior Marshal Brother Nye's ability to hide his spiritual roots. It's completely to increase his comprehension of wind-type magic. This allowed him to comprehend the wind shadow evasion technique and many other powerful wind-type magic. From there, he can increase his combat effectiveness. But I heard from Junior Marshal Brother Nye that Lu Kuan's ability to hide his spiritual roots isn't to increase his combat effectiveness, but to hide his divine sense. It seems that his combat effectiveness is related to his cultivation method." Zhu Siming nodded and said, "That's right. When Lu Kuan first entered the sect, my divine sense was comparable to an early-stage core formation cultivator, but I almost didn't discover the power of his divine sense. It can only be a unique ability of a hidden spiritual root. Right, his muscle magic power is also good at hiding. If it weren't for the materials of the spirit-controlling magic tool that accidentally activated his muscle magic power, Senior Marshal Brother Nye and I wouldn't even have discovered his true cultivation. Hearing Zhu Siming's words, Zhang Xingyu's eyes suddenly lit up and said, "Why didn't I think of this characteristic of Lu Kuan's cultivation method? What do you guys think about letting Lu Kuan carry out that mission?" When the two core bearing stage cultivators heard this, their faces lit up with joy. Zhu Siming said, "That's great. If it's that mission, apprentice nephew Lu can completely disguise himself as an ordinary person. Normal core bearing stage cultivators won't be able to detect him. Li's formation, Li Yunoff, Li's Li Haiyang. Li Haiyang was Li, Li's Li, and Li was formation. Li Haiyang recalled the time when he crashed to the ground from a height of 1,000 feet at the speed of a meteor. At the same time, he couldn't use his magic power. He was so terrified that his heart was still beating rapidly. The feeling of being powerless to resist made him feel as if he had returned to being an ordinary person and no longer a high and mighty cultivator. He also faintly felt that junior brother Lu had the strength to launch another attack at the end and kill him alive. Li Haiyang was the only one who was letting his imagination run wild. The other three were meditating with their eyes closed, especially Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian. They were both trying their best to recover their magic power. Yi Zetian wasn't injured in the previous battle, but his magic power was greatly depleted. Originally, he didn't take Lu Kuan seriously, but things were different now. After his observation, this junior brother who had just advanced to the Foundation establishment realm was adept at discovering all the flaws in the enemy's defenses and then using them to his greatest advantage. He had to use his full strength and rely on his tyrannical cultivation base and level 3 magic weapon to suppress Lu Kuan, leaving him with no chance to counterattack. Moreover, he had to think of a way to deal with the opponent's strange escape technique. Following this, the late Foundation establishment disciple began to recover his magic power as he pondered over how he should deal with Lu Kuan in the next battle. At this time, Lu Kuan didn't think about anything else. He was only focused on recovering his magic power. Before the battle, he had already rehearsed the possible scenarios. His opponent was flying in the sky, and he had thought of a way to deal with it. It was to use the new escape technique that could only be used after reaching the Foundation establishment stage. Back in the Smart Demon Valley, Lu Kuan used the exploding essence fire to increase the air thrust of his exploding essence steps. That was why he was able to move horizontally in the air and escape with his life. After successfully reaching the Foundation establishment stage, Lu Kuan discovered that the force of the exploding essence fire could be further increased. This was because his magic power also contained the wood attribute magic power. He could separate the two types of magic power. Using the wood attribute to ignite the exploding essence fire was like a rocket on Earth. It released a huge thrust backward and quickly pushed forward. As long as his magic power and physical body could support it, Lu Kuan could even continuously move and fly in the air. Unfortunately, this thrust was too great. There was no way for him to stay in the air, so it couldn't be considered as flying. Speaking of which, even if he taught this escape technique to others, they wouldn't be able to do it. If the explosive firepower under one's feet didn't have a dual-colored light shield and a demonic beast-like physical defense, the average cultivator would only use it once, and their feet would be blasted into a bloody mess. A cultivator's magic power shield enveloped the body. At the very least, Lu Kuan had never heard of a magic power shield that was close to the skin. After careful consideration, he decided to use this powerful escape technique, which he named the green fire escape technique, when his opponent was flying in the air. After a period of time, Lu Kuan's magic power had already recovered. In the previous battle, he had mostly used his great strength. Because his magic tools hadn't been upgraded, his magic power wasn't used up much. Most of it was used on the green fire escape technique. Now that senior martial brother Yi knows about my green fire escape technique, he'll definitely be on guard. According to Li Haiyang's reaction, against the tyrannical magic power of the late Foundation establishment stage, my numbing power is almost useless. Moreover, Senior Martial Brother Yi will definitely be on guard against my use of gravity. It seems that I can only use that move. After all, after I reached the foundation establishment stage, this divine ability underwent some changes. Lu Kuan lowered his head and stared blankly at his arms. Half a day passed in the blink of an eye. Everyone had recovered their magic power. A fiery red figure flew from the sunset pavilion to the top of the spell formation. In the blink of an eye, it arrived above the spell formation. Every time Lu Kuan saw the flying speed of a core formation stage cultivator, he was speechless. With his current green wood escape technique, there was no way he could compare. This middle core formation stage, Martial Uncle Zhang opened the spell formation and said, "Li Haiyang, Sun Haowen, the two of you will compete for third place." Then, he saw the pale-faced Li Haiyang walk into the spell formation. He said to Zhang Xingyu, who was in the air, "Martial Uncle Zhang, I give up on this competition. With my strength, I'm no match for Senior Martial Brother Sunday." Li Haiyang barely won yesterday's battle and entered the top 4. He was hoping that he could beat Lu Kuan, a new disciple, by a fluke. If he won, he could enter the 4th level and improve his cultivation speed. As for the other 2 Senior Martial Brothers, he didn't think he could beat them at all. Therefore, after he was defeated by Lu Kuan, he didn't even try and directly gave up. On the opposite side, Sun Haowen's expression was normal. He didn't look surprised. This Li Haiyang's spiritual roots were good, but his combat power was mediocre. His magic tools weren't good either. He really wasn't a match for Sun Haowen. When Zhang Xingyu heard Li Haiyang's words, he nodded and said, "Then next is the competition between Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian. The two of you can go on stage." Then, Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian entered the spell formation. Yi Zetian said with a serious expression, "Lu Shidi, I must win first place. I will use my full strength. If I miss, it's very likely that Martial Uncle Zhang won't be able to save you in time. If Junior Martial Brother can't hold on, just admit defeat. Otherwise, your life will be in danger." Lu Kuan looked at Yi Zetian's serious expression and his heart trembled. He knew that this Senior Martial Brother wasn't just trying to scare him. He really would be ruthless. Lu Kuan replied, "Senior Martial Brother Yi, Junior Martial Brother also wants to obtain Martial Uncle Zhu's divine sense engraving technique. I can only do my best in this battle." Yi Zetian was silent and nodded. At this time, the spell formation also closed. Yi Zetian waved his hand and summoned 2 shining golden magic tools. The surrounding disciples were stunned. It turned out that the 2 magic tools he summoned were actually flywheels. However, they were both golden and not the white and gold ones he used yesterday. Looking at the 2 golden flywheels, one had a sharp edge on the periphery and the other had no sharp edge on the periphery. It was clear that these 2 magic tools were also for attack and defense. Senior Martial Brother Chung, who was quite skilled in refining, looked at the pair of magic tools and his eyes lit up. He said, "So the white flywheel from before was an imitation of these golden wheels. This pair of golden wheels is the real set of magic tools." The surrounding disciples were shocked when they heard this. This was a set of level 3 spirit communication magic tools. Just the conditions for using it were very harsh. Could it be that Senior Martial Brother Ye's divine sense is also far superior to others? Many disciples couldn't help but have such doubts in their hearts. When Lu Kuan saw the golden wheels appear, he felt his hair stand on end. It was as if countless sharp blades were cutting him. He immediately activated a dual-colored light shield around his body. Then, he fused the unparalleled staff into a giant black staff in front of him. The strongest defense is offense. Moreover, the defense of my physical body is like heaven and earth compared to before. What is there to be afraid of? Chapter 160. Yi Zetian looked at Lu Kuan's burly figure rushing towards him. The 2 golden wheels in front of him merged together and began to rotate. Then, golden blades flashed from the edges of the wheels. Each of the golden blades had the power of a primary top-grade spell. Yi Zetian smiled slightly. His divine sense was average. Although he couldn't use the most powerful combination spell of the 2 wheels, he could still barely use a weaker combination spell. This move was much weaker than the most powerful combination spell, but for an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, it was already a very powerful move. The primary top-grade slicing spells covered the sky and covered the earth. Lu Kuan couldn't dodge. No matter how fast his long staff magic tool was, it couldn't block all the slicing spells at the same time. Moreover, the defensive barrier of the early-stage foundation establishment cultivator couldn't block so many slicing spells. Lu Kuan felt the power of these spells. The fierceness in his eyes grew stronger. He directly rushed in with the giant staff. Why should I dodge these spells? Even the true fire of a foundation establishment cultivator couldn't melt my body in a short time. These slicing spells can't even reach the level of a mid-grade spell. What do they do to me? Lu Kuan rushed in for a short while, and the outermost layer of the magic barrier broke. Many disciples who were watching from the outside couldn't help but cry out. Some people even covered their eyes. They couldn't bear to see the tragic scene of Lu Kuan being dismembered. In their minds, cultivators who didn't use defensive magic tools and whose magic barrier was broken were bound to die. They couldn't understand why Lu Kuan went in to die. What? How is this possible? The disciples who closed their eyes couldn't help but open them when they heard the exclamations of the people around them. They stared blankly and couldn't believe what they saw. They saw that Lu Kuan's body was covered in a red and blue halo. It actually blocked all the slicing spells. What kind of defensive barrier is this? So Lu Shidi has a mid-grade or higher defensive spell. No wonder he dares to rush in like this. To be able to resist so many peak elementary cut spells, only a defensive spell that was 2 ranks higher than this would be able to do that. Yi Ziqian was shocked as he watched Lu Kuan rampaging through the cutting technique. He didn't think that Lu Kuan, who had just advanced to the foundation establishment stage, would have talismans above the mid-level. This kind of talisman could only be activated by the liquid magical power of the foundation establishment stage. It was impossible for Lu Kuan to obtain it when he was in the chi condensation stage. Then Lu Kuan's defensive spell was cast by himself. Could it be that his mutated spirit root can cast mid-level defensive spells? Seeing that the cutting technique was ineffective, Lu Kuan closed in on him in the blink of an eye. Yi Ziqian propped up his late-stage foundation establishment defensive barrier. At the same time, he waved his hand and separated the flywheel. The defensive flywheel swelled up and spun around his body at high speed, forming a tight defense. The other attacking flywheel also began to revolve around him. In the blink of an eye, the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator had set up 3 layers of defense. The outermost layer could still counterattack at any time. As he approached, Lu Kuan relied on the blue fire escape technique to bypass the outermost layer of the attacking flywheel. Then he used the huge staff burning with white flames to strike the defensive flywheel. The force contained within the staff forced Li Haiyang back, causing him to stick to the defensive barrier behind him. This attack allowed Yi Ziqian to understand why Lu Kuan was able to beat Li Haiyang to the point where he couldn't even retaliate. The huge force contained within Lu Kuan's huge staff was actually able to force his level 3 spiritual immortal treasure back. Coupled with gravity, it was completely capable of breaking through Li Haiyang's defense. In addition to the strength, there was also a trace of numbing force coming from the other party's staff, causing the circulation of his magical power to stagnate slightly. However, the numbing force was far weaker than Sun Haowen's lightning-type magic, so it didn't cause too much of an impact on his profound magical power. After Lu Kuan struck the defensive flywheel with his staff, he didn't even have time to strike a second time before the attacking flywheel on the outside attacked him with a sharp golden light. Lu Kuan had no choice but to change his move. He held the huge black staff horizontally. BZZT, BZZT. An ear-piercing sound of friction came from the 2 immortal treasures, accompanied by a large amount of sparks. Lu Kuan's arms trembled incessantly. His legs supported him on the ground. His pants were already torn by his bulging muscles, revealing the silver spiritual immortal treasure on his legs. The power of this level 3 spiritual immortal treasure was beyond his imagination. Under the control of the powerful magical power of the late Foundation establishment stage, he almost couldn't block it in a hurry. Ah! Lu Kuan roared angrily. The green-red flames beneath his feet flashed, and he was about to push the attacking immortal treasure away. But at this moment, the golden defensive flywheel ruthlessly slammed into Lu Kuan's left shoulder from the side. Lu Kuan had already focused all his strength on his arms. Even the blue fire escape technique had been activated beneath his feet. There was simply no way for him to dodge. He was immediately knocked to the side by this sudden attack. The attacking flywheel, which was in a deadlock with him, flew past the huge black staff and slashed towards Lu Kuan's left arm. At this critical juncture, Lu Kuan's left arm suddenly expanded and contracted. At the same time, the golden flywheel shattered the dual-colored light barrier around Lu Kuan's body and passed by his enlarged arm. After staggering a few times, Lu Kuan stabilized his body. At this time, the clothes on his left arm were torn, and a bloody wound appeared. A few strands of blood flowed out. Because of the uneven strength in his arms, the unparalleled staff had also split into two. At this time, the golden flywheel closely followed Lu Kuan, not giving Lu Kuan the slightest chance to catch his breath. Lu Kuan coldly snorted. The green-red flames beneath his feet flickered as he retreated. He used the telekinesis technique to combine the unparalleled staff and block the rapidly approaching flywheel. At the same time, his right hand flickered with white light as it pressed towards his left arm. The unparalleled staff, which was controlled by the telekinesis technique, was simply no match for the golden flywheel and was directly sent flying. However, in this short moment, the wound on Lu Kuan's left arm had already healed and stopped bleeding. Soon after, Lu Kuan's feet flashed with flames as he jumped towards the retreating black stick. No one noticed that there was a faint wisp of black light in Lu Kuan's right hand, which was glowing with white light. He grabbed the huge staff with both hands and clashed with his powerful level 3 magic tool a few times. Although the huge staff in his hand was much more powerful than the telekinesis technique, he was only able to barely resist 1 or 2 attacks. His whole body was beaten back little by little. Yiziqian looked at Lu Kuan's unscathed left arm, and shock flashed in the depths of his eyes. He clearly saw that when the golden flywheel was about to hit Lu Kuan's arm, it instantly doubled in size. The golden flywheel cut open a silver arm guard behind his clothes. As if it had encountered resistance, it slid to the side. Could that silver arm guard be Lu Kuan's powerful defensive inner armor? But my golden flywheel has already cut it open. Although his heart was filled with doubts, Yiziqian did not relax. The golden light on the attacking flywheel became more and more dazzling. Lu Kuan's face was a little pale. His rapid attack just now had failed and even allowed the opponent's golden flywheel to seize the opportunity. If he had not activated the giant arm's mystique for a moment and greatly increased the defensive power of his arm would have been cut off. The power of this level 3 spiritual immortal treasure was not something his physical body could withstand. Feeling the opponent's attack, Lu Kuan finally decided to use his giant arm's mystique. After he had reached the Foundation establishment realm, coupled with his blood essence, he could already use it for a short period of time. Then, all the cultivators watching the battle saw Lu Kuan's sleeves tear open, revealing the shiny silver spirit-controlling arm guards. His arms had more than doubled in size. Lu Kuan looked at the enlarged spirit-controlling arm guards and could not help but sigh. Fortunately, he had used the black jade spider silk. Otherwise, using his giant arm's mystique would have damaged the spirit-controlling arm guards. Just as Lu Kuan's giant arms appeared, the giant staff in his hand trembled with excitement. The black color on it became even darker. At this time, Lu Kuan did not care about the giant staff's reaction. He activated the blue fire escape technique and dodged the attack of the golden flywheel. Then, he shot towards Yiziqian. Yiziqian felt a headache coming on because of Lu Kuan's escape technique. He could only use the same trick again. However, The attacking flywheel was a little far away. As long as his inner defensive flywheel blocked 2 attacks, he could come back to help. In the blink of an eye, Lu Kuan arrived in front of Yi Zetian. He did not directly attack the defensive flywheel. Instead, he activated the blue fire escape technique with one leg. His whole body spun and swung the black giant staff at the defensive flywheel from his side. Boom! Under the display of Lu Kuan's giant arms, the giant staff's power seemed to have doubled. It directly sent the defensive flywheel flying. Then, the giant staff burned with white flames and hit Yi Zetian's mana shield, whose face changed slightly. This attack caused the mana shield to become slightly dimmer. It was clear to see the power of Lu Kuan's giant arm's mystique. At this time, Lu Kuan's hands loosened the giant black staff. A pitch-black light shot out from his hands and hit the slightly dimmed mana shield. This black light directly exploded. An aura that caused people's hearts to palpitate erupted. In an instant, the slightly dimmed mana shield was blown to pieces. Lu Kuan grabbed the giant staff again and attacked. Chapter 161. Lu Kuan stood in front of Yi Zetian, holding the giant staff with both hands. The white flames on the staff had already been extinguished, and it was only 3 or 4 inches away from Yi Zetian. This late Foundation establishment senior brother had a calm expression, but his pupils were still dilated. He was clearly shocked by Lu Kuan's terrifying black light. Drip! A drop of sweat dripped down. Lu Kuan's face was incomparably pale, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. It turned out that the golden flying wheel was slowly rotating next to Lu Kuan's neck. The sharp aura on it caused countless goosebumps to appear on his neck. Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian looked at each other for a while. When they saw that the other was not going to kill, they smiled at each other and put away their respective immortal treasures. Lu Kuan watched as the level 3 spiritual immortal treasure was put away. He wiped his sweat and couldn't help but say, at such a critical moment, senior brother Yi was actually able to calmly continue to use his immortal treasure to attack. It's truly admirable. Yi Zetian let out a breath of turbid air and said, Junior brother, you were merciful. Otherwise, your senior brother would have been dead by now. Then he revealed a puzzled expression and asked, but junior brother, what was that black light at the end? It was too fast, and I couldn't see it clearly. Judging from its aura, it seemed to be. Lu Kuan smiled and said, that's right. It was a self-destructing immortal treasure. After releasing its greatest power, it dissipated. So this self-destructing immortal treasure was Lu Kuan's supreme grade flying dagger immortal treasure. Yesterday, after Lu Kuan had merged all the black rocks into his matchless staff, he discovered that there were still 2 very small rocks left. He had an idea and merged one of them into his flying dagger immortal treasure. He didn't know if it was because the flying dagger was too small or if it was for some other reason, but after the small black rock merged with the dagger, it became somewhat unstable. Lu Kuan used his powerful spiritual sense to carve a self-destructing array and refine the flying dagger into a self-destructing immortal treasure. After the refining was successful, the flying dagger turned black. It was because of this throwing knife that Lu Kuan almost missed the competition. In the battle just now, Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian had exchanged blows and realized that this senior martial brother was extremely cautious. His defensive barrier at the late Foundation establishment stage was extremely strong. If nothing unexpected happened, his magic power would be exhausted. Therefore, he had to end the battle in a short period of time and use his greatest explosive power to break the barrier. He had to end the battle before the opponent could use a defensive talisman or re-release a magical shield. Therefore, after he used the giant arm theurgy, he took advantage of the fact that his opponent's dermic force shield was a little dim and unexpectedly threw out this flying knife, self-destructing dermic artifact. It was as if the black rock material was very compatible with his giant arm, allowing it to unleash its greatest power. Because the flying dagger was a self-exploding magic item, Lu Kuan's Foundation Establishment Stage mana could fully unleash the power it should have. Coupled with the terrifying power of the giant arm theurgy in such a short distance, the power was incomparably terrifying. After breaking the late Foundation Establishment Stage barrier, Lu Kuan planned to use only a bit of brute force to knock the opponent unconscious. It was also at this time that Senior Marshal Uncle Zhang shouted. At the same time, Lu Kuan also noticed the golden flywheel near his neck. The two of them faced each other. When Yi Zetian heard Lu Kuan say self-destructing dermic artifact, he was even more confused. When a Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator uses a self-destructing dermic artifact, they can indeed unleash the power of liquid dermic force. However, the power should not be this great. The attack just now was able to break through most of a late Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator's barrier. The same attack could even kill a middle Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator in an instant. At this moment, Zhang Xingyu descended from the sky with a look of lingering fear. He had shouted stop just now because he saw that the two of them might perish together. That was why he had shouted in a moment of desperation. Of the two of them, one was the disciple with the strongest refining skills on the 3rd level, while the other had extraordinary potential. No matter what, his weapon refinement peak could not afford to lose them. Seeing the two of them talking and laughing, Zhang Xingyu couldn't help but shake his head and think to himself, most of the disciples in our weapon refinement peak don't scheme against each other. The truly powerful disciples put all their efforts into refining weapons and painstakingly study them. Even if these disciples lack spirit stones and cultivation resources, they can easily exchange for them with their excellent refining skills. There are pros and cons to this. The good thing is that their refining skills are becoming more and more exquisite, and they might be able to refine unexpected dermic artifacts. The bad thing is that if they don't have the protection of the Yang clan, they will unknowingly be plotted against in the cruel competition for resources outside. Fortunately, there will be large-scale battles in the future, and they will also go out to interact with the disciples of the major sects in Wei Nation. Many disciples can have a good experience. Then, he looked at the two disciples. This Yi Zetian is so desperate because of junior brother Zhu's divine sense engraving technique. I'm afraid Lu Kuan has the same goal. Zhang Xingyu had a few ideas in his mind. He looked at the surrounding disciples and announced in a clear voice, Yi Zetian and Lu Kuan have tied. I announce that the two of them are tied for first place. Both of them will be able to obtain junior apprentice brother Zhu's divine sense engraving technique. The surrounding disciples were not surprised at all. They had seen the scene just now. If they really wanted to determine the winner, the two of them might have died just now. Relingan's disciple, Sun Haowen, had a look of dissatisfaction on his face. In his opinion, Lu Kuan could not resist his lightning-type dermic art except for the last black light. His Thunderball was Lu Kuan's nemesis in close combat. He even felt that if Lu Kuan was hit by his Thunderball once, all of his attacking methods would be interrupted by the surging numbness. After seeing Lu Kuan fight with Li Haiyang and Yi Zetian, Sun Haowen and the other disciples forgot about Lu Kuan's mutated spirit roots. No one even asked about the attributes of Lu Kuan's spirit roots. They only had Lu Kuan's powerful close combat methods in their minds. As for the black light, many of the people present, including those who were skilled in weapon refinement, guessed that it was a self-destructing dermic artifact. Zhu Siming, who was in the Sunset Pavilion, could not help but smile bitterly when he heard his senior brother Zhang talk to himself and promise the secret technique he had created on his own. Of course, he knew about Yi Zetian, who was skilled in weapon refinement. He was much older than Yi Zetian. Back then, Yi Zetian had received his guidance in the art of engraving spiritual arrays. Therefore, Yi Zetian had always regarded him as his master. In terms of weapon refinement, Yi Zetian, Sun Haowen, and Cheng Qian, who was about the same age as him and was proficient in the art of flying needles, were not weak. However, his divine sense carving technique had to be learned by someone with a powerful divine sense to be able to unleash its full potential. Being able to carve out highly difficult psychic spirit arrays and even the spirit arrays of pseudo-dharma treasures. This was the most powerful weapon a Foundation establishment cultivator could use. Forget it. Since that's the case, I will also teach it to Yi Zetian. It will also be beneficial for his weapon refinement. Not long after, Zhang Xingyu brought Lu Kuan, Yi Zetian, and Sun Haowen to the Sunset Pavilion. Zhang Xingyu said to them, "Take out your tokens." The fourth floor requires a core formation cultivator to imprint their dermic powers on it. Hearing this, Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian were quite excited. Even Sun Haowen, who was somewhat depressed, could not help but reveal a happy expression. Without mentioning anything else, the cultivation environment on the fourth floor was the greatest reward. After the tokens were imprinted with their dermic powers, Zhang Xingyu gave each of them a restriction formation plate with their names engraved on it. This is your Immortals Cave Formation token. There are only a few Immortals Caves here. Activate the restriction formation plate, and you will be able to find it. At this time, Zhu Siming had already made 2 copies of his jade slip and handed one to Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian. He said, "This is my divine sense engraving technique. You must swear a divine sense oath that, after learning it, you will destroy this jade slip." Lu Kuan and Yi Zetian nodded and swore solemnly. Then Zhang Xingyu said, "Familiarize yourselves with your new Immortals Caves. 7 days later, when the sun rises, come to the Sunset Pavilion. We have something to tell you." Chapter 162. On the fourth floor of the refining peak, in front of a brand new attic with red tiles and gray pillars, a burly man walked out. His expression was quite emotional. It was Lu Kuan who was looking for a cave residence. This attic dedicated to refining is actually exactly the same as Marshal Uncle Nie's refining pavilion. The quality of the refining furnace is not only good, but there are also many basic materials inside, and there are many refining jade slips. These materials and jade slips are worth thousands of contribution points. No wonder many people want to go to the fourth floor. Then he looked at the large and small Dharma plates in his hand. This Dharma plate can be divided into 2, into a child and a mother plate. The child plate controls the restriction of this refining attic, and the mother plate can control both. In this case, a lot of the basic work of refining can be handed over to the low-level disciples. I don't have to worry about these disciples disturbing my cultivation. After muttering for a while, Lu Kuan walked to the side of the cave residence. At the same time, the Dharma plate in his hand flashed, opened the restriction, and walked in. After entering, Lu Kuan found that this cave residence was more than twice the size of the third floor. There were new knife and axe marks on the stone walls, and it was still filled with the fresh smell of mountain rocks and soil. Many of the items in the cave residence were new. This cave residence was built by them. Did they not plan to let so many disciples enter the fourth floor before? Whether it is new or old, this cave residence will be my residence for the next 100 years. After checking the cave residence, Lu Kuan sat in the hall and took out the unparalleled rod that had turned black. In the previous battle, he clearly felt that the giant arms enhancement of the unparalleled rod was a little too strong. That blow destroyed a small half of the spiritual power shield of the late Foundation establishment stage. And the power of the self-exploding flying dagger that was also mixed with the black rock was far beyond his expectations. By the way, when I took Xiao Jin into the spiritual demon valley, I heard it say that there was something related to our bloodline in the spiritual demon valley. Is it this black rock? Lu Kuan suddenly remembered Xiao Jin's reaction to the spiritual demon valley. I didn't take Xiao Jin the second time I went to the spiritual demon valley, and I was in a hurry to collect resources, so I didn't think about this at all. Now that there are some changes in the spiritual demon valley, and I have entered the Foundation establishment stage, and I don't have to worry about the yellow demonic fog. Should I explore it again? Lu Kuan couldn't help but have this idea in his mind. Then he shook his head and whispered, "My first task now is to temper my bones to contain the liquid qi, and finally I'll break through to the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. Oh, Xiao Jin seems to be back. The cave residence's defensive formation. Xiao, spiritual power of the cave residence. But the cave residences of the cave residence. But of the cave residences, Xiao Jin could find him. The cave residences cans, Zhao's could find him. Xiao, Xiao, little Kuan, little bit more to help, s, little Xiao, little Xiao, little. At this time, a sound transmission glyph flew in from outside the cave residence. Lu Kuan listened, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He said to himself, I didn't think they would all come. Afterwards, Lu Kuan took out a formation plate, tapped it a few times, and opened the cave residence's restriction. A few figures walked in, and the leading little gray monkey quickly jumped onto Lu Kuan's shoulder. Congratulations, Master, on advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. 2 men and a woman bowed to Lu Kuan and congratulated him. So the people who came were Lu Kuan's disciples, Zhao Qingtian, Sher Chao, and Luo Xuanyu, whose cultivation had been crippled. These 3 people's appearances had changed a bit. Zhao Qingtian's body was much more robust than before, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He was the living embodiment of a heroic general. His cultivation had reached the peak of Qi refining stage 12. What surprised Lu Kuan was that this Zhao Qingtian's divine sense was quite strong, even stronger than normal great circle of refining stage cultivators. Sher Chao was a bit taller, but her body was still very slender. Her exposed skin gave people a feeling of firmness and elasticity. Her cultivation had also reached the great circle of refining stage. Finally, Luo Xuanyu looked like a mortal, without a trace of magic power fluctuations. However, his body was much taller and more robust than a few years ago, and his entire body seemed to be filled with explosive power. Zhao Qingtian saw that Lu Kuan was observing them, so he went up and said with a smile, Master, on the way here, we've already heard many disciples talking about Master's powerful strength. The busybodies all call Master the second senior brother of the Foundation establishment stage disciples. Master, is your strength really comparable to the late Foundation establishment stage? Lu Kuan shook his head and said, My immortal treasure has yet to be upgraded to a spiritual immortal treasure. My strength is still quite far from the late Foundation establishment stage. Sher Chao didn't quite agree, and said with a serious face, Just look at the supreme grade immortal treasures you gave us. Master's refining skills are extraordinary. Immortal treasures can be upgraded very easily. Isn't the late Foundation establishment stage strength stable? Along the way, Luo Xuanyu heard many disciples describe Master's battles. He was dazzled and asked blankly, Master, you're so strong. Is it because of the body cultivation technique? Lu Kuan didn't directly answer. He first used his divine sense to scan and didn't discover Luo Xuanyu's magic power fluctuations. Then, he poured his divine sense into his eyes and activated the golden eye ability. Only then did he see that there was magic power in the depths of Luo Xuanyu's muscles. Lu Kuan asked, Xinyu, you've started cultivating the elemental fire body refining technique? Luo Xuanyu gave a simple and honest smile. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Zhao Qingtian. He only heard Zhao Qingtian say, Little junior brother has already successfully converted the magic power in his muscles. Now, he has the cultivation of the middle Qi refining stage. At the same time as Zhao Qingtian was describing, Luo Xuanyu activated the magic power in his muscles. Lu Kuan felt that this cultivation was around the 7th level of the Qi refining stage. In his heart, he somewhat understood. Even with his middle foundation establishment stage divine sense, he couldn't see the magic power in Luo Xuanyu's muscles. It seemed that the most powerful aspect of the body refining technique was the concealment of magic power. Early on, when he first created the body refining technique, he guessed that if other people cultivated the elemental fire body refining technique, They wouldn't be able to reach the late Qi refining stage without the power of bloodline or a special body. Sure enough, after Luo Xuanyu achieved great success in the Vajra esoteric art and cultivated the elemental fire body refining technique, he only reached the middle Qi refining stage. Lu Kuan looked at the three people and said, "Among the three of you, only Xianyu has completely walked my path. Xianyu, the magic power in your muscles, now can also release spells, right?" Luo Xuanyu nodded and said, "Yes, master. The magic power in my muscles is the same as the magic power that I cultivated from the foundation techniques. I can freely use all kinds of spells and magic tools." Lu Kuan said again, "Later I'll teach you the elemental explosion steps, the elemental fire divine ability, as well as one of my body-controlling flying techniques. In addition, when you use magic tools in the future, use them to attack and defend." On the side, Zhao Qingtian heard Lu Kuan's words, and his eyes lit up. He said in astonishment, "Wielding magic tools is Master's great divine ability that could defeat late Foundation establishment stage cultivators." Lu Kuan smiled. "What great divine ability? It's just a battle method that is most suitable for us body cultivators. The purpose is to unleash the enormous strength of the physical body that far surpasses others. I'll teach you all this later." Did you come here this time to ask about the problem of advancing to Foundation establishment? Zhao Qingtian nodded and said, "Master, my sister and I have already mastered the Vajra arts. However, Master told us not to cultivate the body refining art first. After hearing that Master had reached Foundation establishment, we knew that Master must have figured out the body refining arts Foundation establishment method. We've already felt the benefits of the Vajra arts. In these few years, we've rarely failed in our missions. We've also obtained the Foundation establishment pill." Lu Kuan couldn't help but sigh and said, "That's right. I've created the body refining arts Foundation establishment method. However, my situation is different from yours. Since you have the Foundation establishment pill, use it to reach Foundation establishment first." Lu Kuan pondered for a moment and said, "After Foundation establishment, Qingtian, cultivate the elemental wood body refining art and continue tempering your physical body. The magic power cultivated from this is the same as your cultivation technique, both of them being of the wood attribute. It will allow your battle endurance to be stronger." Then Lu Kuan said to Sher Chao, "However, Shu'er, your ice spirit root is especially suitable for water attribute cultivation techniques. I don't have a water attribute body refining art at the moment, so I can't teach you." Chapter 163. "Shu'er, what's wrong?" Lu Kuan couldn't help but ask when he saw Sher Chao's expression. Sher Chao's expression was bashful as she dawdled and said, "Master, about that. My Jade Sun Peak's martial ancestor Wang said that she would take me in as a disciple after I reached the Foundation establishment stage and teach me the profound ice arts. But I've already acknowledged you as my master, so," Lu Kuan laughed and said, "after I take you in as my disciple, I'll only be guiding you onto the path of cultivation. Apart from that, I'll only be teaching you the Vajra arts. I don't have any suitable body refinement technique for you at the moment. I've also heard of that martial Aunt Wang. If you acknowledge her as your master, you'll have someone to guide you in your Foundation establishment cultivation. Besides, it's not a big deal for one person to have two masters." Sher Chao's eyes lit up. "That's right. No one said that you can only have one master. Hee, I'll have two masters in the future. One is a core formation cultivator, and the other is a powerful cultivator comparable to a late Foundation establishment cultivator. Let's see who dares to bully me." At this moment, Zhao Qingtian's face was also full of joy as he cried out, "That's great! My one will acknowledge martial ancestor Wang as her master after reaching the Foundation establishment stage. This way, I'll be Er's junior martial sister's brother by blood. Our relationship will be closer, and my chances will be greater." Lu Kuan's mouth twitched as he listened to Zhao Qingtian's nonsense. He had heard Zhao Qingtian mention this before. She was a little girl who entered the sect together with him. She was indeed a beauty. It was normal for Zhao Qingtian to pursue her. Lu Kuan didn't think too much about it. Next, he taught Zhao Qingtian and Luo Xuanyu how to wield magic tools and set magic tools. However, only Luo Xuanyu could learn the essence explosion steps, essence fire, and body manipulation flying technique. As for Zhao Qingtian, Lu Kuan taught him the essence tree body refinement arts recovery technique and the technique to numb one's magic power. As for Sher Chao, she was satisfied after mastering the Vajra arts. She smiled foolishly at the side. Half a day later, Zhao Qingtian and Sher Chao left the cave. But Luo Xuanyu's eyes was left behind. Seeing Luo Xuanyu's words hesitating, he asked, Xinyu, do you have something's up? But not long ago, I finally found out how my father's is. Not long ago, S's only now did Lu Kuan remember the matter between Luo Xuanyu ants. However, he asked doubtfully, Xinyu, I've heard a bit about Luo clans, mid-chi refinings and above, swear not to harms. Luo Xuanyu said hatefully, indeed not. That year, my father was traveling with 2 Foundation Establishment disciples. The son of one of them was La Xianhua, the one who crippled my Kama. The other Foundation Establishment disciple also had a son. However, his aptitude was much worse than La Xianhua. He's only at the mid-chi refining stage now. This mid-chi refining Luo clan's disciple knew me. Not long ago, when he met me in the market, he humiliated me. At that time, he accidentally let it slip. He said that my father was killed by a disciple of the miraculous gate, and that his father just watched as my father was killed and didn't offer any help. Upon hearing this, Lu Kuan frowned and said, Xiaoxinus usually kill people to steal their treasures. But your father was killed by a disciple of the miraculous gate. Based on the temperament of the disciples of the miraculous gate, even if the Luo clan's disciple didn't help, he wouldn't have gotten any benefits. So, your father's death must have been beneficial to them. Luo Xuanyu murmured, could it be my father discovered the Luo clan's unspeakable secret? Lu Kuan lowered his head and pondered. Why would a disciple of the miraculous gate kill someone in front of the Luo clan for no reason? Then he understood. His expression changed slightly as he asked, when did that Luo clan's disciple spill the beans? Luo Xuanyu recalled, 7 or 8 days ago. Master, why are you asking? Lu Kuan's expression was serious as he said, as a Foundation Establishment disciple of the Crafting Peak, and now that I'm living on the 4th floor, I have the right to accept disciples. The Vajra Esoteric Arts 7th layer allows you to change your appearance. After you change your appearance, enter my Crafting Peak. I'll talk to Martial Uncle Zhang about this. Luo Xuanyu finally understood Lu Kuan's meaning. That Luo clan's disciple spilled the beans. If other people found out, they'd definitely think of a way to silence him in order to keep the secret. Lu Kuan continued, for the time being, you should bury this matter in your heart. The Luo clan's direct descendant has a core formation cultivator. He's not someone we can contend against. If you want to take revenge, cultivating to the Foundation Establishment stages the right path. Lu Kuan thought for a moment and said, how about this? You can change your name to Yu Xian. You can stay in my Immortal's Cave and wait for me to help you get the Crafting Peak's identity token. Then, you can move to the 2nd floor and accept the gate's missions. You're at the middle stage of the aura refining stage. Lu Kuan thought for a moment and said, no, this matter is too important. I'll go now. Soon after, Lu Kuan hurriedly left the Immortal's Cave, leaving Xiao Jin and Luo Xuanyu to look at each other in dismay. After an entire day, Lu Kuan returned with a solemn expression. He tossed a token to Luo Xuanyu and said, Xin, you know, from now on, you'll be called Yu Xian. Remember, you can't let anyone know about this. When you show your face outside, you must change your appearance. Luo, Xuan Yu Xian should be Yu Xian, asked in a daze. Even senior martial brother and senior martial sister can't do it? Lu Kuan said resolutely, no. If you want to take revenge, don't tell them. Moreover, they'll soon build their foundation. With your current cultivation level, you'll only be a burden to them. I'll explain it to them. Yu Xian looked a bit sad when he thought about how he couldn't reunite with Sher Chao. However, when he thought about how they were about to build their foundation while he himself was still in the middle stage of the aura refining realm, even if they reunited, he wouldn't have the courage to confess to Sher Chao. Thus, he secretly made up his mind. Master cultivates the body refining technique to build his foundation. He can even contend with late-stage foundation building cultivators. My aptitude isn't high, but if I successfully build my foundation using Master's technique, my strength definitely won't be weak. At that time, I'll be worthy of senior martial sister Shuer. Moreover, I'll only have a chance to take revenge after I build my foundation. Lu Kuan didn't know what Yu Xian was thinking. He continued, this token already has Yu Xian's information. When you return, you still have to do the entry mission. The mission to refine fine iron is very suitable for our technique. You can consider choosing this one. Yu Xian said firmly, okay, Master. I'll take this mission. Lu Kuan said, this token is the restriction array disk of your Immortal's Cave's second floor. You can go to the first floor to take the refining mission. Yu Xian nodded and changed his appearance into a slightly fierce-looking young man. It was completely different from his previous delicate and pretty face. Then, he left Lu Kuan's Immortal's Cave and went to the lower floor. Chapter 164. Thinking of Niao Wufeng, Lu Kuan couldn't help but look at his left arm. After taking off his robe, he could see that there was a smooth notch on the spirit-controlling celestial tool on his left arm. Lu Kuan frowned and said, this spirit-controlling celestial artifact was forged from earth fire, so it has some resistance against primordial fire. However, its other defensive capabilities are not high. Even Foundation Establishment Stage, Cultivator's celestial artifacts and spells can destroy it. Fortunately, after I advance to the Foundation Establishment Stage, the light shield can barely leave my skin for a distance to protect the spirit-controlling celestial tool. Otherwise, when I fought with Senior Apprentice Brother Yi, more than half of this spirit-controlling celestial tool would have been destroyed by the cutting technique. If the light shield's defensive capabilities were insufficient, causing the spirit-controlling celestial tool to be destroyed, then my only path would be defeat. After muttering to himself, Lu Kuan removed the damaged part of the spirit-controlling celestial tool. Then, he took out a small piece of silver white ore and a small section of transparent spider silk from his storage bag. White flames flickered in his hands, calcining these items. His current primordial fire was completely on the same level as the Foundation Establishment Stage's Mana True Fire. Calcining these materials was abnormally easy. Moreover, his hands could directly touch this white flame without the protection of the light shield. Lu Kuan seemed to be kneading plasticine, using his fingers to fuse the softened materials. Finally, with the cooperation of his divine sense, this spirit-controlling celestial tool was repaired in the time it took for an incense stick to burn. If Niao Wufeng saw Lu Kuan forge a celestial tool like this, his jaw would have long dropped in shock. This means that many parts that cannot be adjusted by divine sense, Lu Kuan can adjust with his nimble hands. After putting on this repaired, spirit-controlling celestial tool again, Lu Kuan muttered to himself, I remember Martial Uncle Niao once said that if the spirit-controlling celestial tool can be integrated into the body, it would be the best outcome. But only magic treasures can have this characteristic. I heard from Senior Brother Qin that Brother Gu has been in seclusion all this time. When he comes out of seclusion, we'll pay him a visit and see if there are any other solutions. Then, Lu Kuan took out a small section of spider silk from his storage bag. An enchanting figure appeared in his mind, and he murmured, I promised Shin Mingyao that I would look for her after I reached the Foundation Establishment Stage. I don't know what mission Martial Uncle Zhang and the others have. If it's not particularly urgent, I'll go to the Miraculous Gate first. Lu Kuan couldn't help but feel a little dazed when he thought of that little fairy. Creak, creak. Xiao Jin's cry woke Lu Kuan up. Lu Kuan then remembered something. He patted his head and said to Xiao Jin, do you still remember the smart demon valley? When the little gray monkey heard these words, it immediately became excited and squeaked crazily. When Lu Kuan heard this, he said, Yes, you said that there was something related to the power of our bloodline. Look, is this it? With that, Lu Kuan took out the last small piece of black rock and handed it to Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin held the small rock and looked a little excited. Then it kept sniffing it, shaking its head and nodding. Then it called out a few words to Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan's expression changed slightly, and he whispered, You said that this has something to do with our bloodline, but there is something more important in the smart demon valley. He suddenly thought of the egg-shaped yellow stone in the deepest part of this black rock island. However, this stone was extremely strange. It could easily suck a second-level demon beast dry. At present, he didn't dare to peek at it again. Then what's the use of this black rock? Xiao Jin, do you know? After fusing it into an artifact, my giant arm theurgy will be able to unleash great power. Then, Lu Kuan saw Xiao Jin's blank expression and said self-deprecatingly, How could Xiao Jin know about such a strange material? Squeak, squeak. But Xiao Jin still called out a few words. Your bloodline has some memories of this black rock, but you can't recall it now. It's fine if you can't remember it for now. It shouldn't affect me from inscribing the psychic array. All right, Xiao Jin, aren't you looking for Little Gray? Lu Kuan just remembered that Xiao Jin had returned so quickly. After Xiao Jin heard Lu Kuan's words, his eyes flashed with a determined expression. He muttered incessantly, and at the same time, he clenched his fists and waved them around. Little Gray is going to advance to a second-level demon beast? Huh. No wonder you were in a hurry to come back. You must want to advance as soon as possible. Otherwise, after Little Gray advances, you can only be bullied. Squeak, squeak. Lu Kuan lowered his head and pondered for a while, then said, Xiao Jin, your advancement to a second-level demon beast is very different from my foundation establishment. How do you liquefy your demon spiritual energy? Following that, Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin had a deep conversation and found out about the differences between demon beasts. This was also something that Xiao Jin understood when he was hanging out with Little Gray. It turns out that when a demon beast advances to a second-level demon beast, as long as the strength of its physical body reaches a certain level, the demon's spiritual energy in its body will naturally liquefy. Therefore, many peak-tier first-level demon beasts spend time. When the time is up, their physical body will naturally be strengthened by the demon's spiritual energy. After that, they will naturally transform and advance to a second-level demon beast. Xiao Jin witnessed Lu Kuan's advancement to the Foundation Establishment realm. Using his strange innate ability, he listened to the entire process of Lu Kuan's physical body's transformation. He knew that this method would also work on him, but he needed Lu Kuan to help him recover. With the density of Lu Kuan's current FA Li, the separated wood type FA Li would be more than enough to support his advancement. After Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin finished discussing the problem of demon beast advancement, he said, Xiao Jin, for me to advance, I need to compress the liquid FA Li before I can use the wood type FA Li to stimulate the fire type FA Li. If you don't need to condense it, then the wood type FA Li that I separated will only be used to repair your physical body. You also know how to use the elemental fire and elemental fire shield. Let's palms face each other. I will take the initiative to inject the wood type FA Li into your body. You only need to circulate it to repair your body. Once you've adjusted yourself, you can begin your breakthrough. Seeing Xiao Jin's serious expression nod, Lu Kuan sat cross-legged in front of Xiao Jin. On the other hand, Xiao Jin stood and closed his eyes to recall Lu Kuan's advancement method. A pair of monkey claws pressed against Lu Kuan's hands. Xiao Jin could use Lu Kuan's elemental fire body tempering art with demonic spiritual power. The same red elemental fire shield entered Xiao Jin's body and protected the internal parts of his muscles. Then a yellow demonic fire directly burned in Xiao Jin's muscles. At the same time, Lu Kuan separated the wood-type Fa Li from the liquid Fa Li and injected it into Xiao Jin through his palm. With a painful expression, Xiao Jin gritted his teeth and adjusted his muscles. He circulated the elemental wood body tempering arts recovery technique to repair his burning flesh. Lu Kuan was fully aware of the pain of burning flesh. Looking at Xiao Jin's expression, he couldn't help showing some concern. Even though Xiao Jin's demonic spiritual power was very dense after reaching the level of a top-tier demonic beast, it was almost consumed in half a day under such burning. Then, Xiao Jin guided spiritual energy into his body and converted it into demonic spiritual power to maintain the burning of the elemental fire. Fortunately, the spiritual energy here was much denser than the place where Lu Kuan built his foundation. Xiao Jin's demonic spiritual power was replenished more efficiently. Chapter 165. A few days later, the red sun had already passed the clouds in the distance and climbed into the sky. On the top floor of the Sunset Pavilion, there were several figures standing. Among them was a burly old man wearing a red robe. He was frowning, and there was a hint of anger in his eyes. Beside the red-robed old man was a kind-looking old man with an indifferent expression. They were the two core formation stage cultivators of the weapon refining peak, Zhang Xingyu and Zhu Siming. For some reason, the other core formation stage cultivator, Linghu Yi, was not here. Standing behind them were two foundation establishment stage disciples. One of them was a middle-aged man wearing a black robe. He was quite steady. The other was handsome and had a slightly impatient expression. They were Yi Zetian and Sun Haowen. When the sun rose for a while, a burly man wearing a black robe slowly flew over on a blue boat. This person's eyes were a little red and his aura looked very weak. Zhu Siming used his divine sense to sense Lu Kuan, who was flying over. He had a strange expression. When he landed on the Sunset Pavilion, he asked, "Lu Kuan, why did you come so late and your aura is so weak?" Lu Kuan said tiredly, "Reporting to Martial Uncle Zhu, Martial Nephew Spirit Beast has just successfully advanced. I used my Fa Li to help and was a little tired, so I came late." Yi Zetian on the side was not too surprised. Sun Haowen immediately showed a look of surprise. For a foundation establishment stage cultivator to use Fa Li to help, it was most likely a level 2 demonic beast. It was hard to imagine that Lu Shidi's spirit beast could advance to the liquid level after him. This also showed that his strength was not only what it showed in the competition. Even the two core formation stage cultivators were surprised after hearing this. Of course, they knew that the spirit beast Lu Kuan was talking about was Xiao Jin. In their eyes, it was already quite difficult for the little gray monkey to be able to tie with the silver spot leopard cub at the top level. Yet, it was able to advance into a Class 2 demonic beast so quickly. One had to know that it had only been a Class 1 demonic beast for a few years, and its aptitude was comparable to the silver spot leopard. The displeasure on Zhang Xingyu's face faded a little as he said, "Since you're all here, I'll tell you about this mission. Each of you has a different mission." Subsequently, the burly old man looked at Sun Haowen and said, "Sun Haowen, your mission is the most urgent. You need to go to the furthest Song province. This mission will be led by Junior Brother Luo of the Azure Sun Peak. You will report to Junior Brother Luo at the 4th floor of the Azure Sun Peak tomorrow morning." At the same time, Zhang Xingyu took out a jade scroll and tossed it to Sun Haowen before continuing, "The details of the mission are all written in this jade scroll. Furthermore, this jade scroll has my magical imprint. Once you give it to Junior Brother Luo Yuechi of the Blue Sun Peak, he will know that you are a disciple sent by my weapon refinement peak to carry out this mission." Sun Haowen took the jade scroll and used his divine sense to explore it. His expression changed as if he had seen something inconceivable. Zhang Xingyu snorted and said, Martial nephew son, now swear a divine sense oath that you will not reveal the mission's contents to anyone else. Go back and prepare immediately. Seeing Sun Haowen in a daze for a while, he finally recovered from the mission and swore a divine sense oath. Zhang Xingyu continued, "This mission is not too dangerous. Other than you, there are 3 other Foundation Establishment Stage disciples participating in this mission. This Jade Scroll also states that they do not know the mission's contents. Everything will be led by you." Sun Haowen gradually recovered from the shock of the mission. Instead, he revealed a faint expression of excitement as he said, "Yes, Martial Uncle Zhang. I, Sun Haowen, will definitely make the weapon refinement peak famous." Zhang Xingyu continued, "Fame is one thing, but the most important thing is to protect your lives. Otherwise, the greatest loss will be the death of my Weapon Refinement Peaks Foundation Establishment Stage disciples. If they are all fine, after the mission is completed, you will be rewarded with 8,000 contribution points." Sun Haowen revealed a look of joy. For someone with mutated spiritual roots like him, what he lacked were all kinds of mutated spells. These spells just so happened to require a large amount of contribution points to exchange for. With 8,000 contribution points, he could at least exchange for 2 more lightning-type spells. After that, this disciple of Rellingen bid farewell to the others and hurriedly left, intending to use the day to prepare. After seeing Sun Haowen leave, Zhu Siming said to Yi Ziqian, "Martial nephew Yi, I will lead the team for this mission. This Jade Scroll is the mission's introduction. You will also lead 3 Weapon Refinement Peak disciples and set off in 5 days. The reward will be the same as Sun Haowen's." After that, Zhu Siming threw a Jade Scroll to Yi Ziqian. Yi Ziqian just saw Sun Haowen's expression and knew that the mission was not simple. After scanning it with his divine sense, his expression changed slightly. Yi Ziqian then seemed to know that this mission was of great importance and swore a divine sense oath to keep the mission's contents a secret. After that, this Foundation Establishment disciple with the highest cultivation level of the Weapon Refinement Peak also hurriedly left. In the end, Lu Kuan was left behind. Zhang Xingyu looked at Lu Kuan and said, "Lu Shizhi, you don't have to worry about the Luo family. With junior brother Nya secretly observing, there won't be any big problems. Not only is this round of missions urgent, but each of them is also very troublesome. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a core formation stage cultivator leading the team and the 6 major sects of Wei Kingdom joining forces. Martial uncles, when will my mission begin? I have to find time to carve the psychic array in my Dharma artifacts." Lu Kuan was not concerned about the mission, but he was worried that he would not even have time to upgrade his Dharma artifacts. Zhu Siming smiled and said, "Your mission time is very short. You have to set off in 5 days. Anyway, I have already imparted my divine sense carving technique to you. I will help you carve a level 1 psychic array in your set of Dharma artifacts." Lu Kuan was overjoyed and said, "Thank you, Martial Uncle Zhu." The benevolent-looking old man revealed a strange smile and said, "However, the contribution points you need to complete the mission will be reduced to 6,000 points. The remaining 2,000 points will be used as my fee for carving the array. You have to know that this is the standard fee for my Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators." Lu Kuan's smile froze on his face. He muttered in his heart, "Why did this Martial Uncle Zhu become so stingy after becoming a core formation stage cultivator?" However, Lu Kuan still kept thanking him on the surface. A jade slip appeared in Zhang Xingyu's hand, and he said, "Lu Kuan, this jade slip is your mission. You have seen the core formation stage cultivator leading the team. He is Su Tianchuan from the Morning Sun Peak." Lu Kuan frowned after hearing this. His other 2 senior brothers' missions were led by early-stage core formation stage cultivators, but his mission was led by a mid-stage core formation stage cultivator. One had to know that this cultivator's spirit beast was a level 5 demonic beast. It could be seen that the difficulty of the mission was extraordinary. Lu Kuan doubtfully scanned the jade slip with his divine sense. His expression was shocked, and he directly cried out, "The Yi clan? The Yi clan of Qing province?" Zhang Xingyu nodded and coldly said, "That's right. It's this Yi clan. This time, the mission is to eliminate all the clans that have nothing to do with our six great sects. These clans are all somewhat related to the Zhong, Zhou's, Shangqing sect. This time, each of the six great sects has sent out their men. Just our Yu Yang sect alone has sent out 3 core formation stage cultivators. The other sect have also sent out quite a few cultivators. Their goal is to eliminate the tumor at the back at lightning speed." When Lu Kuan heard Zhang Xingyu's words, his expression changed greatly. He couldn't help but say, "The rear? Shangqing sect? Could it be? That's right. This sect has occupied Zhongzhou for so many years. In recent years, they have indirectly seized the resources of our 6 great sects through these clans. After our 6 great sects were fully prepared, we decided to join forces and make the first move," Zhang Xingyu said while gnashing his teeth. Looking at his expression, it seemed that he had suffered a great loss at Shangqing's sect. Zhu Siming said, "Lu Shizhi, ever since you advanced to the foundation establishment stage, your strength has increased by a lot. You and Qin Yushu are the same as senior martial brother Nya back then. You have the strength of a late-stage foundation establishment stage cultivator at the early-stage foundation establishment stage. With your aptitude and strength, if you successfully break through to the core formation stage, you will definitely be strong among the core formation stage cultivators. At that time, the strength of our Yang clan will not be much worse than that of the Miraculous Gate. Moreover, only when there are more core formation stage cultivators will there be new nascent soul stage cultivators. This is the symbol of a sect's strength." When Lu Kuan saw that the 2 core formation stage cultivators were rather agitated, such a thought flashed through his mind. According to the 2 uncle masters, our Yang clan is much weaker than the other sects in the Wei Nation. When Zhu Siming saw Lu Kuan's expression, he realized that he had said too much. He said, "Lu Kuan, swear that you will not divulge the contents of the mission. I will help you draw the psychic array and explain some of the key points of the divine sense engraving technique to you." Zhu Siming then said to Zhang Xingyu, "Senior martial brother, I will leave with Lu Kuan first." Zhang Xingyu said, "Yes, Lu Kuan will only have late-stage strength after this pair of Dharma artifacts is upgraded. That's right, Lu Shizhi, you have special arrangements for this mission. Old Ghost, Su will tell you later." Chapter 166. In the Wei Kingdom, the neighboring states of Lu Province were Qingzhou and Zhongzhou. In the middle of these 3 states was the endless Lingming mountain range. Crossing the Lingming mountain range from Lu Province and heading west was Qing Province. The name Qing Province had some meaning. In the immortal cultivation world, the word Qing referred to the 2 major immortal cultivation sects here, Qingyu Temple and Qingyang sect. In the secular world, the word Qingzhou referred to the vast green grassland of Qingzhou. On the grassland, herds of cattle, sheep, and horses could be found every few miles. Most mortals made a living by herding animals. On this day, on the edge of the grassland of Qingzhou, on an endless mountain range, there was a group of fierce black crows with gray feathers and black claws. They were hovering in the sky and cawing. Suddenly, an invisible ripple flashed in the sky above the mountain range, and the clouds nearby were scattered. The group of black crows seemed to have seen something terrifying and fled in all directions. If a powerful cultivator used the heavenly eye technique, they would discover that a large grayish-white flying boat had appeared in the clouds. This flying boat was about 50 feet long and 20 feet wide, and there was a transparent and hazy shield around it. This shield was the flying boat's concealment spell. Unless it was a cultivator above the foundation establishment stage who used their divine sense to examine it closely, they would not be able to discover it. And the flying boat flew above the clouds, so people on the ground could not detect it at all. This grayish-white flying boat was the famous cloud-treading boat of the Yang clan. It could accommodate dozens of people and only required 4 Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators to cast the spell to allow it to fly quickly in the sky. On this cloud-treading boat, there were about 30 cultivators. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that these men and women were all Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators. They were divided into 2 groups and stood on both sides of the cloud-treading boat. In the center of the flying boat, Lu Kuan was wearing a yellow robe. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the scene outside the boat. Behind him stood a few cultivators from the weapon refining peak. They were Fatty Zhu, the cold-faced man Zheng Ziming, and the sallow and emaciated disciple Su Yang. It turned out that these 3 people were the disciples assigned to Lu Kuan to carry out the mission together. Lu Kuan frowned slightly and looked serious. He was still thinking about the divine sense engraving technique that Zhu Siming had explained to him a few days ago. There were several key points in it that he hadn't figured out yet. At this moment, a voice sounded in his ear. "Second senior brother, we have already reached the border of Qinglu. If the mission is as senior brother said, then the immortal cultivation sects in Qingzhou will also send people, right?" The person who spoke was the emaciated Su Yang. Fatty Zhu and Zheng Ziming looked at Lu Kuan when they heard that. They were informed by their core formation martial uncle that they had an important mission to carry out, but he didn't explain the specific details. He only said that Lu Kuan was the leader of the 3 of them. Along the way, Lu Kuan told them that the mission this time was to deal with the Yi family in Qingzhou. When Lu Kuan heard the title Second Senior Brother, he sighed. Because the weapon refining peak had never held a battle competition, they didn't know each other's strength. The other peaks determined the disciples who lived on the 4th floor based on the strength of their combat strength. Qingyang Peak and Chaoyang Peak even called the disciples on the 4th floor the previous senior brothers. The Qi Refining Peak's Foundation Establishment disciples learned from them and called Yi Zetian as senior brother, Lu Kuan as second senior brother, and Sun Haowen as 3rd senior brother. Lu Kuan looked at the grassland outside and replied, "The Yi family has a core formation cultivator and has been in Qingzhou for many years. If the Qingwei Temple and Qingyang sect make any movements, they may immediately know. Also, the Yi family is very close to Luzhou, so the Qingwei Temple and Qingyang sect won't participate in this mission. So that's how it is. We've teamed up with the Miraculous Gate. We have a total of 32 Foundation Establishment cultivators and 2 core formation martial uncles leading the team. Our strength is twice that of the Yi family. It seems like the mission is relatively easy." Fatty Zhu didn't seem nervous at all. The cold-faced man, Zheng Ziming, shook his head and said, "What we're going to do is exterminate a sect. It's inevitable that the Yi family's cultivators will do something desperate. You have to know that after Foundation Establishment cultivators recklessly ignite the Fa Li in their body, their strength can temporarily increase by a realm. If that's the case, we'll avoid them during the battle." Lu Kuan did not join in their discussion. He saw a short man walking towards him. He had seen this short man a few years ago. It was the martial Uncle Feng, who had been in charge of the Lingming Market Square back then. This disciple's name was Feng Chou, a disciple of the Rising Sun Peak. 7 or 8 years ago, he broke through to the late Foundation Establishment stage and was the one with the highest cultivation level among the disciples leading the team this time. Fatty Zhu and the rest saw Feng Chou and stopped talking. They heard Feng Chou say to Lu Kuan, "Lu Shitty, I think it won't be long before we reach our temporary hiding place. I'll be leaving soon to carry out the mission." Lu Kuan nodded and said, "Martial Uncle Su told me that Senior Brother Feng can help me arrange an identity. I was just about to ask Senior Brother Zhao about it, but I didn't expect you to come." Feng Chou waved his hand, and a soundproof shield enveloped the 2 of them. This soundproof shield was a spell that could only be used by Foundation Establishment cultivators. Its power was completely dependent on the strength of one's divine sense. On this flying boat, the late Foundation Establishment disciples of the Miraculous Gate also knew about this plan, so there was nothing to worry about. Once Feng Chou was done with the soundproof barrier, He said, I've only stayed in Green Province for a while, so I got to know some mortal clans from the secular world. They would send some mortal servants to the House of Yi regularly. Junior Brother's divine ability is amazing. You can disguise yourself as a mortal and blend into the House of Yi. Lu Kuan said modestly, You're exaggerating, Senior Brother. It's just a little trick. Feng Chou looked at Lu Kuan meaningfully and said, Junior Brother, you don't have to be so humble. It's not a little trick to be recognized by the martial uncles. Junior Brother, you'll only be there for 2 or 3 days. You won't meet the Yi clan's patriarch who's in the core formation stage, so the danger is low. You just have to wait for the appointed time and open their small restrictive formation from the inside. We'll be able to catch them off guard. The Yi clan won't have time to escape. If that's the case, their family's many years of savings will fall into our hands. Senior Brother Feng, don't worry. I'll open the formation on time. Junior Brother, let me tell you more about the Yi clan's restrictive formation. Yes, Senior Brother. After a short while, Feng Chou put away the soundproof barrier and suddenly said, Lu Shitty, if there's an even more intense battle later on, why don't the teams from Chaoyang Peak and Weapon Refinement Peak stay together? We can look after each other. Fatty Zhu and the other two were overjoyed when they heard this. This Senior Brother Feng cultivated the frost technique, and the divine abilities that came with it were amazing. Staying together would definitely increase their safety. Seeing Lu Kuan and the others thanking him, Feng Chou laughed in his heart. He had already received detailed information on Lu Kuan's battle and knew that this Junior Brother's technique was unique. Like a mortal martial artist, he was good at close combat. His technique and divine abilities were quite effective at trapping enemies. With the combination of the two, not only would the enemy not be able to escape, they wouldn't even try to attack him from afar. They would only try their best to deal with Lu Kuan in close combat. In this way, his safety was greatly increased. Even if the enemy was desperate and ignited their liquid dermic powers, Lu Shitty would be the first to bear the brunt. Standing in front of the cloud-treading ship were 2 old men. One of them was slightly plump and had a huge silver leopard lying next to him. It was the Yang clan's Chaoyang Peak's silver leopard Taoist master Su Tianchuan. The other person wore a black robe. His eyebrows were yellow and slender. His face was emaciated and his entire body emitted a vexing aura. This was a rather famous early-stage core formation cultivator in the Miraculous Gate. People called him Taoist Master Huang Mei. His demonic cultivation was profound. When the cloud-treading ship was traveling in the sky above the green grassland, Su Tianchuan suddenly said, I'll have to trouble Taoist Master Huang Mei to remain vigilant. I'll cast a spell to increase the speed of the flying ship. We've already passed the border of Lu Province and aren't far from the Yi clan of Qing Province. If we're discovered, we'll alert the enemy. Taoist Master Su, don't worry. As long as a cultivator discovers us, I won't let them live. Taoist Master Huang Mei replied. His hoarse voice was filled with cruelty. Chapter 167. The cloud-treading ship flew above this grassland for about 6 hours before it landed on a barren hill. Then, the flying ship was exposed to the air. Then, 2 sound-transmitting talismans shot out from the cloud-treading ship and disappeared into the hill. Inside a hidden array on the hill, there were 2 Foundation establishment cultivators. They took the sound-transmitting talismans and listened carefully. One of the Foundation establishment cultivators was happy and said, It's Martial Uncle Su of the Yang clan. The other nodded and said, Yes, this one is from Martial Uncle Huang Mei. Since there's no mistake, let's open the array. It turned out that these 2 cultivators were disciples of the Yang clan and the Miraculous Gate. Their mission was to come here in advance and secretly set up a temporary hiding place in this hill that was lacking in spirit chi. At this time, the cloud-treading boat landed on the ground. The disciples on the flying boat also disembarked. Su Tianchuan, who was the leader, put away the flying boat. He and Huang Mei's spiritual master led the disciples of the 2 factions into the small mountain. After a few steps, the group disappeared without a trace. After the time it took to eat a meal, two figures, one tall and one short, appeared in the hill. They looked at the direction and flew north on a small boat. They were Lu Kuan and Feng Chou. At this time, Lu Kuan had changed his face into a fierce-looking man. After flying for about 10 miles, the two landed on the ground. They were afraid of attracting attention, so they walked. Gradually, a huge grassland city appeared in front of them. The mortals living in the grassland were different from those in Luzhou. They lived in tents, and each tent was a house. Feng Chou was familiar with this place and led Lu Kuan through the tents. Soon, they arrived in front of the largest tents. Lu Kuan found that there was a faint array fluctuation in one of the tents. There were cultivators living here. Feng Chou's hand flashed, and he threw the sound, transmitting talisman inside. He said to Lu Kuan, "Junior martial brother, this is the residence of a distant relative of the Yi clan. They have some spirit stones and are enshrining a chi condensation rogue cultivator to protect them." "Oh, he's coming out." Lu Kuan saw a wretched-looking man walk out. He was at the 7th level of chi refining. He nodded and bowed to Feng Chou. Lu Kuan had already concealed his spiritual sense and mana. He was like an ordinary person standing next to him, completely unremarkable. After that, Feng Chou said a few words to the man, gave Lu Kuan a look, and turned to leave. After Feng Chou left, the rogue cultivator said, "Brother Zhang, Senior brought you here just in time. In about half a day, the Yi clan will come and pick you up. I really don't know what kind of relationship your ancestor has with this senior. He actually brought you here personally." Then, Lu Kuan was brought to another tent by the rogue cultivator. There were 17 or 18 men and women inside. Many of the men were similar to Lu Kuan and were very strong. The women were all beautiful. After leaving Lu Kuan here, the rogue cultivator turned and left. Although this person was brought here by the senior cultivator, he was only a mortal and was not worthy of his company. Lu Kuan ignored the greetings of the others and sat down cross-legged. Currently, he only had a storage bag hanging between his legs. He did not bring the spirit beast bag because Xiao Jin was injured in the process of breaking through and was left in the cave to heal. Some time ago, an unexpected situation occurred when Xiao Jin was breaking through to level 2 demonic beast. As Xiao Jin's body became stronger and stronger, Lu Kuan's would attribute Fa. Li's recovery effect became smaller and smaller. In order to let Xiao Jin's recovery speed keep up, Lu Kuan had to increase the output of Fa. Li. Fortunately, at the last critical moment, Xiao Jin successfully broke through to level 2 demonic beast and extinguished the demonic fire. Lu Kuan's Fa. Li was almost exhausted. Although Xiao Jin had broken through to level 2 demonic beast, its body was severely injured. Its gray fur was also burned off. Its injuries could only be slowly nourished by the liquid form of demonic chi. Fortunately, I didn't bring Xiao Jin out. Otherwise, it would be quite troublesome. This time, I put all the spiritual controlling artifacts into the storage bag. Moreover, the spiritual root is not here for the next 2 days. It's better be careful. But even if something goes wrong, I can still escape in time. As Lu Kuan thought of this, a confident smile appeared on his face. At this moment, Lu Kuan was very different from when he was in the Foundation establishment stage. Just by relying on the astonishing defensive power of his body and the Foundation establishment stage's dual-colored light shield, even a late Foundation establishment stage cultivator like Yi Zetian would not be able to kill Lu Kuan in one blow. As long as Lu Kuan had the slightest bit of time to react and put on the spiritual controlling arm guard in time, coupled with the level 1 spiritual controlling artifacts, as long as there was no core formation stage cultivator, he would have some confidence in escaping. Let's think about how to find the erased nodes. Time passed by as Lu Kuan pondered. Half a day later, 2 late chi refining stage Yi clan disciples came to the tent. After a simple registration, they brought Lu Kuan and the others out. These mortals sat on 2 flying boats that were slightly flat and flew slowly in a direction to the north. The Yi clan's flat flying boats were refined to be larger than regular flying instruments and were used to transport mortals. However, due to the limited skills of the refiners, they could only reduce the flying speed to ensure that more people could ride on them. These mortals could not tell the quality of the instruments as they were all in the excitement of flying. As Lu Kuan looked at the two young Yi clan disciples in front of him, he could not help but think of the foliaceous water and Yi Zitao siblings who had plotted against him in the sagacious Demon Valley. After the two of them had plotted against him, they had even stolen the body of the ferocious badger. As he thought of this, a cold light flashed in Lu Kuan's eyes. Once the Yi clan's forbidden array was opened, he would personally find the siblings and take revenge for what they had done. After this slow magic tool flew for a period of time, a rather majestic fortress gradually appeared in front of everyone. The outer layer of this fortress had a very obvious cloud and mist-light shield. When Lu Kuan and the others' flying boat arrived in front of the fortress, a Yi clan disciple who was in the early foundation establishment stage came out. He used his divine sense to do a simple check on them and let them in. Lu Kuan was relieved. As expected, male cultivators would not scan the lower half of other men's bodies. They did not find his storage pouch. As they walked into the Yi castle, Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with a golden light. He kept observing the forbidden array and the patrolling cultivators in the surroundings and made a mental note of it. The Yi clan was indeed a cultivation clan with a core formation cultivator in charge. Although the forbidden array outside was a simplified version, its power was much weaker than the original. However, even a core formation cultivator would not be able to quickly break through the forbidden array. There were formation masters in the Miraculous Gate and the Yang clan. They were very familiar with the forbidden array's internal nodes. Previously, Fengqiu had taught Lu Kuan this method of finding the internal nodes. Lu Kuan had already found the general location of the nodes through his observations along the way. He still had to stay here for 2 days, so he was not in a hurry. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.